Today's episode is brought to you by Coal Creek Equine, makers of the best equine spa in the industry. If you want your horses to be world champions, you better put them in a Coal Creek. Well, welcome to Uncut and Real Raw. Today's guest, we've got Jeremy Barwick. Jeremy, great to have you here, mate.
Thanks for having me, Clinton. It's a pleasure.
Well, Jeremy, I don't even know where to begin to introduce you. You're kind of like an equine entrepreneur in everything, from the Stallion Station to Western Bloodstock to horse sales to a cutting trainer. You've done a little bit of everything and done it quite well. I don't even know where to unpack your life, seriously. You've done a lot in a little bit of time, so thanks for coming here to talk to us today. But most people would know you through the Stallion Station, correct?
Yeah, the Stallion Station, Western Bloodstock, as a pass-cutting horse trainer.
Yep.
Those are probably the biggest companies we have. We have a horse supplement company now, too, Core Balance, put on the Gold Buckle Futurity, Rope Horse Futurities.
I did not know that.
So we do a lot of different things. I breed a lot of horses, actually. I buy some thoroughbred yearlings and sell them as 2-year-olds. So you don't
like any vacation, do you? You're just a sucker for punishment, aren't you?
I think I was raised that way to stay busy.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't have something to do, I get pretty bored. So
yeah, that's awesome.
So I do stay pretty busy doing a lot of different things.
Well, good deal. Well, I want to unpack all of those different entities that you just spoke about, but let's kind of go back to the past. You know, we've known each other and always been friendly to each other. You've helped me over the years when I used to live in Stephenville, Texas, with some of the rehab facilities you had there and so forth. But I've never dove into your life of what makes you successful. The podcast, the Uncut and Real Rock podcast, is about celebrating people's successes and also talking about their failures and things they would go back and do differently, and people learn from it. But I don't know that much about how you become the Jeremy Barwick you are today. So let's back up a little bit. First of all, how old are you, mate?
47.
47, okay. I'm 49, a couple of years older than you. Where were you born, mate?
So I was raised in South Georgia, and actually I was born there in Albany, Georgia, where my parents, and then my parents divorced when I was, 5th, 6th grade, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, growing up, my grandparents had horses. So every weekend, every school holiday, summertime, the whole summer, we would go and stay with our grandparents.
You and your siblings?
Yes, me and my older brother mostly. My younger brother, he's several years younger than the two of us. But we would go and stay there all summer. And because of the horses, from birth, I loved horses. I remember, and I don't even know where I remember this, but I must have been maybe 5 or 6 years old. And we were still living in Albany at the time. My grandparents were. And I was learning how to cut on an Appaloosa mare that my grandfather had trained, and there was water trough in the corner of the arena, and I fell off in the water trough. So I don't know why that sticks with me, but it just sticks with me that I did that.
Something about a kid fucking drowning stays with you.
Yeah, exactly. So when my parents got divorced, as any kid, you feel torn. Do I stay with this one, stay with that one? Well, I think I stayed with my mom the first year. And then after that, I spent the summer with my grandparents. I'm like, I'm staying here. I want to stay here.
So they really cultivated the horses in you and your brother. Is that correct?
Yeah, my grandfather.
Was your granddad a horse trainer?
He was. He trained mostly cutters, but he trained, being there where we were in that small town of, at that time, Lyons, Georgia, which is right outside Vidalia. You didn't know what you were going to get.
Yeah.
Mostly cutters. And, he wasn't the greatest showman, but he was a damn good horse trainer.
Okay.
He could train.
So that's what he did for a living, to feed his family, take care of the grandkids, etc.
He did that, and then, obviously back then he didn't have a lot of horses, so he had some tractors and some equipment. We'd clear land on the weekends. We'd put in sprinkler systems in yards. We would do whatever we had to do to make a living.
Yeah.
And I think looking back on it, that's probably what makes me do what I do now, is to have so many different things, because if one thing fails, I can have this other one to pick it up.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the reason I do a lot of things, because
you hedge your bet.
Some things may fail.
Yeah.
And
they will, won't they? Some things will fail.
They're gonna fail at some point, and so you still got to have a way to make a living. So I think a lot of that he ingrained in me.
I bet you have tremendously fond memories of growing up with your grandparents, correct? What age were you there kind of full-time to when you left? What ages?
I think I moved there full-time when I was in 6th grade.
Okay.
And I stayed until I was 17. And my grandfather, he was a great guy, but he was a hard ass. Mm-hmm.
He's that older generation.
Oh, it was never enough, never good enough. Mm-hmm. And 17, 18 years old,
you're
like, piss on that.
Yeah,
I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah.
I mean, he taught me, God, nearly everything I know.
Yes.
But
But
we
do you
had
think as you got older now, Jeremy, the lessons, again, at 16, 17, we're full of piss and vinegar. We think we know more than our parents and everybody else. Now that you've got older, do you really appreciate a lot of the lessons your granddad taught you now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as hard as he was, and some of it's hard to talk about, but
That's all right. Yeah.
as hard as he was, when you look back at it now, you're like, thank
thankful.
God, that he taught you how to work.
Yes.
He taught you to do whatever you had to do to make a living. And I knew all those years. So I moved out when I was 17. And I was just like, I was sick of it. And I'm like, I'm going to move out.
But that formed your foundation, didn't it?
It did. So I got a job. Well, my first job was bagging groceries at Winn-Dixie.
Okay. So you left high school at 17.
Yep.
Now, did you enjoy it? Just back up just a little bit. Were you riding horses a lot every day after school? You had the horse bug. Were you showing? Was he showing you how to train horses? Yep. Like, talk to me about the horse part of between the 6th grade and 17 years old. Talk to me about the horses and your granddad about that.
Oh, yeah. Every day when you got off the school bus, you come home, you changed clothes, you went straight to the barn.
Yeah.
And all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I mean, that's all we did. Like, I craved it. That's all I wanted to do, is anything to do with a horse. That's what I wanted to do.
Were your siblings as ate up with horses as what you were, Jeremy?
Yeah, my oldest brother was growing up, and then kind of the older he got in teenage years, he started doing other things, and he was a great equipment operator. So he handled a lot of that part when we clean yards and build pads and put in irrigation. Like, he handled all of that because he's so good at that. He liked the horses, probably not as much as I did. Like, I mean, the horses were my life. I
ate up with them.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to skip school and go to the river that day. If I skip school, I'm going to ride horses all day. I mean, that's
awesome.
just what I wanted to do.
Isn't it funny that the horse bug is either in you, Jeremy, or it's not, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't put it in people. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this on the flight up here, because my grandfather, he's my grandfather, but actually by blood was not.
Yes.
So there's no blood there at all. And my mom and dad, they didn't have anything to do with horses.
Yeah.
They rode horses as kids just because that's what they had. But they didn't have anything to do with the horses the way that I did. So I think you're just born with it. You either have it or you don't. And it's a passion you can't get rid of.
No, it's a drug, isn't it?
I mean,
it is a drug.
Yeah. I mean, even though today I don't ride hardly ever, but I own more horses probably than I've ever had.
Yes.
It's just an addiction. You think sometimes, well, man, I need to get rid of some of these things. They're costing me a fortune, but then you go buy another one. I have a bad habit of that.
I think we all do. I think we all just make a living to keep our addict up, to keep our drug addiction of these fucking horses up.
Yeah, at the end of the year, you're going through all your tax stuff, and you're like, shit, I need to get rid of some horses. And then, pay your taxes, and you go buy some more. I mean, that's just part of it. But.
So, if you had to name, obviously, your granddad's generation, they were just tough, and they had to be tough, didn't they, Jeremy, to survive? How they were brought up. There was no fucking therapy in that generation. There was no easy going. It was just tough because that was the only way you survived. It was either work or fucking die. There was no middle ground. So they were just tough. My grandparents were the same way. They were raised that way. My dad was pretty tough too, and they were just raised that way. They didn't know any better, but in their defense, that was what they had to do to survive.
Yeah, I mean, they just did what they had to do to survive. And
what was some of that work ethic? You mentioned work ethic was probably a great asset. What were some of the other assets that he taught you as far as horse training goes, or the biggest lessons you think you got from him as a horseman, your grandfather?
Even back then, and when it wasn't as important as it is today, but I mean, he always believed, you go stop that horse straight, you work the cow, you don't just try to do mechanical things, you bring their nose through first. Like a lot of the things that the guys do today, he was doing back then.
Oh, truly.
I mean, he was a great horseman, no doubt. He was a hard ass, but he was he was a great horseman.
Yeah, and he loved the cutting horses more than the other
Oh,
events.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I mean, he taught me a lot with the horses, a great work ethic, and just do what you've got to do to survive.
It's funny. I always tell people, you can fuck up a lot of things in life, but if you're just willing to work and get up and go back to work and work your ass off, you can overcome a lot of screw-ups.
Oh,
But you can get a lot of things right in life, but if you're lazy, all those right things don't mean shit.
Yeah,
Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, no, I believe that. I mean, you have to get up every morning with a purpose in life.
Yes.
There should be no reason you just lay there in bed all day.
I think retirement for men is either a death trap for them or it can be the next chapter of their lives. Like now, I'm theoretically retired from being a clinician, but I get out of bed at 4:30 because I like it. I want to go to the barn. I want to get up. I work actually probably a little more hours now than what I did when I was a clinician, because I've seen too many guys that get retired, sit around on the sofa, sit in a recliner, and they're fucking dead within 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like the body was designed and the mind to be moving. You better be moving to the day you drop dead.
Well, you've got to have a purpose in life.
Yes.
I mean, you may retire from your career,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean, hell, for ladies, go work in your yards.
Yes.
Keep your yards up.
What's your passion?
Yeah, just go. Just for a lot of men, they retire and they take up golf, play golf every day.
Yeah.
Something. Just have some purpose in life to get up and go be productive every single day.
And keep your body moving.
Yes.
Yeah. How has your grandfather passed away now?
Yeah, he's passed 8-9 years ago.
Okay. And what age did he live to, mate?
He was 73 when he died.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Well, I always say grandparents. It seems like there's two types of grandparents in the world. There's the grandparents that are heavily invested in their grandchildren, like love being around their grandchildren, love spending time with them, love teaching them. And then there's grandparents that just couldn't give a fuck about kids. They're like, I've had my kids, I'm done. You go raise these kids by yourself. They're not necessarily mean to them. Some are, I suppose, but they're kind of like, they don't give a shit about being involved in grandparents' lives. And I've had both. I've had both either ends of that. But the grandparents that are really engaged with grandchildren, and like you said, even though you weren't blood to him, he treated you like he was yours.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandparents were great. My grandmother was the loving one, and he was the hard ass.
And that's a balance there, isn't it?
And that was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget the first time I hauled for the world. It's 2000, and I hauled in the novice, but in the open was 2006, and I won the world that year. And that was a big deal from a kid coming from Georgia, not from very much.
So.
And so at that time, the world finals was in Amarillo. So I flew out my family to the finals. And I'll never forget this. This is how big a hard ass he was.
Yeah.
Like, and I believe it was me and Winston hauling against each other that year, and we were pretty tight. But I'd won enough that even the last round didn't really matter. But I still won the last round. I think Winston was second. And the first thing he said to me when I walked up there, well, he almost got you. Not good job, congratulations. No, he almost got you.
Yeah.
That's just the hard ass he was, because he never wanted you to think you made it.
Yes.
He always wanted you to strive to be better. And he did that. And I think that I take that, I'd pissed me off back then.
Yes.
But now I'm like, that helped me in life.
Yeah. I never forget when Matt Gaines was sitting in that chair, he said that, I think it was Greg Welsh said to him, why'd you give up your non-pro card? And he said, that's the dumbest fucking thing. You'll never make it. And it pissed him off.
Yeah.
And there's something about being pissed off, trying to prove somebody wrong, that goes a long way to make you pull your finger out. I love being hated on. It makes me want to do it more.
Yeah, it's just going to make you work harder.
Yes. Yeah, a little revenge there. Well, that's friggin' awesome then. So you leave high school at 17, didn't want to go to college. What did you want to do when you left high school? Did you know you wanted to be a horse trainer? Where's your mind at 17, mate?
I didn't know that I definitely wanted to be a horse trainer. I wanted to do something with horses.
Okay.
And so it led into horse training. And my first job, I worked for a lady there in South Georgia, and I worked for her for 6-7 years. And we started there in South Georgia, and then ended up moving she built a place down in Florida.
As a cutting horse trainer?
As a cutting horse trainer.
Okay, righto.
And started
Was she new to the business, this lady?
Oh, yeah, she was real new. We actually started, she had a lot of Royal King bred horses. Like, it was all foundation stuff. And we kind of built from there and went from there and ended up in Florida and stayed there a couple years. And it was a great job. And, I mean, I am indebted to that lady forever for the opportunity she gave me. But you needed to grow.
Yeah.
And at that time, I thought, to grow, I need to go to Texas. Had no freaking clue where I was going.
Yeah.
I had a truck and a borrowed horse trailer.
So let me ask you about that 6 years, though. Did she buy better quality horses? Did you help her get better quality? What was the stock like? You said it was all foundation shit, but did it get better?
Oh, absolutely. We bought some young horses and brought them up. We bought a couple trained horses, and it got better and better. And when I left there, she had 5 or 6 really nice horses. And I actually, when I first moved, I took a couple with me. She sent a few with me, and then she ended up hiring someone else. So then they went back home after that. But
do you think that 6 years was important for you to find your style as a cutting horse trainer? Did she stay the fuck out of your way and let you kind of develop you?
Oh, absolutely. She was probably one of the greatest people I ever met.
That's awesome.
I mean, she gave me a job. She left me alone. You do what you want to do. And gave me the financial backing to do it. And we had some really good success for there. but I wanted more.
Okay.
And so I thought, I need to go to Texas. So I had been out to Bill Freeman's and worked on occasions at times. So
What years would this have been, mate?
So I moved when I was 25. So whatever year that was, I'm 47 now. So 22 years ago.
Yep.
So I called Bill, and I'm like, Bill, I want to move. And I had, I think, 10 or 12 outside horses at the time. And he said, well, you can come here, lease stalls, what have you. Well, then it just so happened I talked to another friend of mine, Glenn Blankenship, that was there in Stephenville at the time. And he said, oh, just come here. And he was working for Lonnie Ossip at the time. They had a lot of horses, so I could help him. Plus, and it was going to be cheaper because I was going to help him also. So that's what I ended up doing, was going there. And I think it was that year, because I was 25. So that year I had went to Gonzales, Louisiana to judge the winter circuit down there. And just in passing, met my soon-to-be wife then. We met at the winter circuit and was married 2 months later.
Was she did she ride cutting horses or bred them? What part of the cutting horse world was she involved in?
So her mom and dad, Bill and Mary Lee Dixon, they owned the Lamar Dixon Expo Center down there.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice facility.
And so that's where the cutting was. So I met her just in passing, and the other guy I was judging with knew her, and she gave her phone number to him. And so when I was driving home Sunday night, it was an 8-hour drive, and we talked all the way home.
That's awesome.
And then 2 months later, we were married. So
she was ate up with the cutting too. She enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, she thoroughly enjoyed it, and she liked it a lot. We don't neither one do it anymore, but she loved it a lot. When we were hauling, it was just her and I and maybe one helper. Like she loved that part of it. She showed a lot, did well. We had a really good time.
Who was your main influence? Obviously your grandfather taught you the basics of cutting. For the 6 years you're on your own, and then a little bit after that, was there anybody else cutting horse trainer that really influenced your training style or how you wanted to get around a horse? Anybody else kind of mentor you during those years?
During that time, I would go out and stay a few days with Matt Gaines, and I went quite a bit to Bill Freeman's and stayed with him for 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
Yep.
And so those guys helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But you can watch guys and talk to guys all you want, but at the end of the day, you got to find what fits you. Because what fits them may not fit you. You may not have the talent to do it the way they do it, or the feel to do it the way they do it. So it's always good to watch. And I always, even as a kid, I would sit around the practice pen and just watch. Because growing up in Georgia, we always went to the Augusta Futurity, and back then it was huge. And all the guys came. Well, I would sit out there at the practice pen all day long and just watch people, and you can learn. And then you try it, and if it doesn't work, well, move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So you moved to Stephenville. How did you get married about the same time, correct?
Yeah,
roughly?
So I moved there in May. We met in December, got married in February.
So what happens from that point moving forward? What was the trainer you went into lease stalls from?
I was at Glenn Blankenship's.
Okay.
And then we started getting a few more outside horses in, so we leased another place, the Chapman Ranch over on 281 down south of town. And so we worked out of there, and we eventually bought us a place.
And is that the main place you have now, where the Stallion Station is?
So where the Stallion Station is now, that was our original training facility.
Yeah, that's correct. That's where you bought there.
Yep, so we bought that, built it, redid the house, moved there. And
put up an indoor there.
Put up the indoor.
Was there anything there when you got started, Jeremy?
We were there. There was an old house that we redid and an old dairy barn that we tore down. The old dairy barn is where the arena is now, or mare barn now, but that was just an old dairy barn, and the rest of it was just woods.
What made you pick that particular land? Was there something specific about that area or that land that you wanted, or?
Honestly, because at the time,
like, why didn't you? I suppose what I'm trying to ask is, the cutting would have been in Weatherford. Why didn't you move back to Weatherford or anything? Why? Because you would have been one of the first cutters in Stephenville, wouldn't you?
Well, Kobe and Paulie,
I suppose they would have been there, but it wasn't a hub.
No,
there's a lot more cutters down there now. But why didn't you move back to Weatherford?
The main reason, because I happened to know the lady that owned the land, and she was willing to owner finance it because we had no money.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to get at.
We couldn't afford it, so and she was willing to owner finance it for us, so that's how we bought it.
Right. Okay, fair enough then. So then you build a facility and you want to go back to training horses again for yourself full time, correct?
Yep, and we started riding, and we bought a horse, Dore Me, from Kobe and Paula. He was a 4-year-old, I guess summer of his 4-year-old year. And so Candy and I were both going to show him. And really good horse, but he was green when we got him. So I just showed him for a while. She would show him some until we would just go to weekend shows, just season him and season him and season him. And then this 5- and 6-year-old year, we had great shows at the aged events, plus we were hauling him. And that horse, between the two of us, we ended up winning $900,000 on him.
Oh, truly, that's a lot.
He was an amazing horse. But, so I hauled in 06, 07. She hauled in 08. I hauled again in 09. So I was lucky enough to win the world those 3 years that I hauled, and she was reserved the year she hauled. And then we won a bunch on him in the aged events. She won the Super Stakes. I won the Derby.
Was he a gelding stud?
He was a gelding, dual pep gelding.
Yep.
Just phenomenal horse. I mean,
he won $900,000. That horse.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
Just a once in a lifetime horse. I mean,
yeah.
Even when
what made him so special?
He was probably just the smartest horse you'll ever meet. I mean, he
like
just,
on a cow, or just around the barn, everything.
He's a little quirky around the barn, but just on a cow. I mean, that horse. And I've never counted how many cows he lost in his career, but it's not many. I mean, he just read a cow so well, and just so smart and easy. And like, if he did make a mistake, the way you quit a cow or what have you and walk back to the herd, you could tell he knew he'd screwed up, and he better tighten up. Like that horse.
What did that horse teach you as a horseman? What do you think that horse did for your confidence? What did he do for you in your training? Did he make you puff your chest out? You know what I mean? Because every trainer that I've interviewed, they all have that one horse that's pretty fucking special that just made them believe they could train, made them believe they could go do it. And they sit there and they say, I owe a lot of my career to this horse.
Oh, absolutely.
Boomernick, Bob Avila and Major Bonanza, and there was a lot of great trainers that said to you, what did that horse do for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he made you feel invincible. Yeah. I mean, when you walked to the herd on him, you knew unless you screwed up, you're probably going to win. I mean, he made so few mistakes that the only way you were not going to win is if you screwed up. I mean, he just gave you so much confidence when you walked down there. Just a once in a lifetime animal.
Haven't had anything close to him yet?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Had some really good ones, but nothing like him.
Yeah. Okay, so you do row on that horse. You win the world 3 times in a row. You're rocking along, training cutting horses. Everything's going good. Getting some better outside horses, Jeremy. What's business like?
Yeah, and so after I was done hauling, I'd help the Milner kids, Joey and Lori Milner's kids. I'd help them a lot in the youth when I was hauling, and so then that just attracted other parents that wanted to send their kids there for me to help, and so I had a big business for 3 or 4 years there of just hauling kids around and helping them. And I enjoyed showing and having fun. That was great. But I tell you what, when you can haul those kids around and they win the world.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You don't have any kids of your own, do you?
No. We don't have any kids, and I love kids.
Yeah, yes.
My wife can't have kids, but I love kids.
Yeah. So that kind of gave you a bit of a high there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved watching them do good.
So it's not something you deliberately set out to do, is to haul a lot of youth. It just kind of happened to you.
It just kind of happened. I didn't intend for it to happen. It just happened, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
That's awesome.
A lot of fun.
Did the parents buy open horses for you to train too, or just mainly the kids, or how did that work?
No, they would buy open horses, and we just shared them.
Yes.
I mean,
okay.
If I showed one, they showed it too. There was, I don't remember any horses that I had that I only showed.
Yeah.
I mean, even our gelding, when I was hauling him, Jordan Milner showed him in the youth. I'd show him in the open, she'd show him in the youth.
Yeah.
And we did that all year, and she won the world on him also. So there wasn't their horses, my horses. We did it all as a team. We did everything together.
Yeah.
And it was a big blast.
That's awesome.
It really was.
Silver Spurs Equine. Our stallion roster consists of over 30 of the industry's top performers and producers, including such greats as Wimpy's Little Step, A Sparkling Vintage, SG Frozen Enterprise, Shiner's Voodoo Doctor, and more. At locations in Scottsdale, Arizona and Purcell, Oklahoma, we raise over 100 foals each year and sell each of them to the public at affordable prices. We want to see you win on a Silver Spurs horse. And to prove it, we've developed the $1 Million Challenge, our very own international incentive program that awards champions of all levels, open and non-pro, at the NRHA Futurity, the NRHA Derby, including 4-year-old stakes and novice horse divisions, the European Futurity, the German Breeders' Futurity, the Austrian Reining Futurity, the Italian Reining Futurity, the Guadalajara Classic Futurity and Derby. So breed to one of our stallions to create your dream cross with your mare, or hurry to silverspursalehorses.com to view our inventory of available prospects. Ride on.
Want to get your brand noticed? Advertising opportunities now available, including title sponsorship and episode sponsorships. The Uncut and Real Raw podcast is among the top 1% of podcasts in the nation, with nearly 1 million downloads. Join our winning team and come along for the ride. Email social@uncutandrealraw.com for more information.
This episode is brought to you in part by Breaking Bad, the hottest new NCHA futurity sire. So at this point, are you wanting to win the futurity? What are your goals as a horse trainer during this period here?
So in 2012, we bought a customer of mine. I was helping him with his kids, but then he wanted to buy some open horses. So there was a mare in the 2-year-old sale, Dual Smart Kitty. Mm-hmm. And Richard Jordan had her there, and I love that mare. Like, she was just so cowy, just everything about her. I thought, man, she's pretty special. And so I told him, I said, I wasn't even at the sale that day, and I said, buy that mare. So he bought her, and it wasn't long after I worked her a couple weeks at home. I'm like, this mare can win the futurity. Like, I was that confident in her. She could win the futurity. Mm-hmm. Well, just so happened, 2013, and I was driving to the Super Stakes one day, and I'm like, I'd always just was intrigued with horse sales. So I'm like, I had talked to Cindy Bolin about triangle sales, and I thought, I'm just going to call and see if they would sell Western Bloodstock. Because if you're going to buy one, buy the best one.
Right.
So started talking to them in May, right after the Super Stakes, and then I had to go to Canada to put on a clinic. Got back, made a deal in June. So talked to Clay Johnson and hired him to come take over my training facility. Well, lo and behold, that Mary wins the 30 on it 2013.
Oh, truly, that same year.
Yep.
Were you getting, at that point, training horses, what was making you want to start another business? Were you getting burnt out by any chance? Were you tired? Was the thrill of the chase a little bit over and you wanted the next challenge? You know what I mean? What was going through your mind there? Because to go from a horse trainer to buying a national horse sale is a big jump. Okay. So what was motivating you at this point? You just thought, man, I could make a lot more money over here, or maybe I'm getting a little burnt out training horses or hauling. What else could I do? Where's your mind during this?
I don't think I was getting burnt out, but I was smart enough to know that, you're probably not going to train horses until you're 70, 75 and be super successful.
Yes, financially.
Yeah. As you know, as a past horse trainer too, it's hard. Unless you sell a lot of horses or win a shit ton. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to win enough to make a really good living because you're really only getting half of it.
Yeah.
So I just got to, and horse sales had always been, I could go to a Friday night horse sale and sit there and watch them sell horses. I just loved it.
So you were ate up with the horse sale part of the passion. How old would you have been when you took that sale over?
So I was 35.
Okay. Right.
35.
So you could just see the writing on the walls, another 20, 25 years of training horses, your body's crippled up, you're tired, financially there's only so far you can go doing it, you can see the writing on the wall, correct?
Yeah, exactly. There's only so far you're going to go with the money you can make from training horses. Yeah. So you need to have some outside income. Mm-hmm. And horse sales for me, because I'd done pretty well buying and selling horses, buying horses for other people, selling horses for people. I always liked that part of the business.
You like the transaction part.
I really liked that. So horse sales just worked for me. And just so happened they were willing to sell it, and so we bought it. And it's done way better than we could ever anticipate it to have done. It was doing well when we bought it, but it's done so much better since then. Do you think
you were just, I'm not going to use the word luck, because to me luck is where hard work and opportunity meet each other. So luck gets thrown around a lot in a lot of different ways, but do you think you were in the right place at the right time, timing-wise, for them to want to sell the Western Bloodstock sale? Like, if you would have tried that 10 years earlier, would have been a failure. 10 years later, like for me, for example, I'm not ashamed to say it, RFD TV made my career. I was smart enough to get on that bandwagon when it first started. Like, I was the first trainer to train TV shows for RFD TV. But without a doubt, that was the launch of my career. If I wouldn't have got on RFD TV and that came along and I was smart enough to invest in it and put my hard-earned money and time and effort into it, my career wouldn't have taken off. So it was me and the right opportunity the right thing came along, and I said, I'm jumping in this river and rowing like a motherfucker to go down it. You know what I mean? Do you think that was a little bit with Western Bloodstock? You were in the right place at the right time, but they wanted to sell or not?
Yeah, no, I think I was definitely in the right place at the right time. You know, they were getting on up in age, so I think they were kind of looking for a place to retire. Even though, like Ben, you know, he up until he passed away, he was there with me every day nearly.
Yes.
You know, and Milt also. But they were at a place that they were ready to slow down, and I could see some things that I thought you could do to the business to elevate it a little more,
Update it a little bit,
so
younger.
then that first year's when we started the gala sale, and that was a huge gamble because we were only going to sell 50 horses, and that sale cost us about $250,000 to put on.
So for people that don't know, that are in the cutting horse world, explain a little bit what this gala sale was.
So we would go out and hand pick 50 yearlings, and they had to be out of your top mares and by the top stallions. And then we did a nighttime sale, you know, kind of dress up sale, evening sale that had never been done. They had done some little evening special sales, but never with as much criteria like Riata come in and fed everybody.
Like put on a production.
We put on a big production, and it was, you know, it was expensive. That sale cost $250,000. We didn't make money that night.
Yeah.
But what it did, and what I thought it was going to do, was elevate the prices of other horses.
Mm-hmm.
And
That weren't in that sale?
that wasn't in that sale.
Okay.
Because if they didn't get that, but they saw that one, like, well, this one's not much different than that one, and can buy it for, you know, 70, 80,000 instead of 200. You know, so it brought those $30,000-$40,000 horses to 50 to 75,000.
Okay.
And so, and it did that. I thought that was my goal for it to do, and it did. You know, and since then, I think there's been a lot of things happen that have elevated the prices in horses. I mean, I think obviously the Yellowstone effect has helped it, and I think COVID helped it.
Very much so.
I mean,
Yeah.
probably COVID helped it as much as anything, because I think people decided there's other hobbies that's outside
Yes.
that they can do. And now that's just, I mean, because not just cutting or cow horse or anything, I mean, just your everyday riding horses are worth a lot more,
Very much so.
because people just want to get out and go do something outside.
So that Gallia sale, it was a risk. It was new to the industry, at least on the level that you wanted to do it. The first year was successful.
Yeah, first year was successful. They brought really good money, more than any of us expected. We did that sale 5 years, and it got better every year, just because I did a better job at picking better horses.
Okay. So you were literally out there beating the bushes. You were in a truck driving around looking at these horses, looking at their pedigree. It wasn't just people sending in the 50 bred horses and you just picked them off papers. You got your eyes on them.
Yeah, so the day the Derby was over, summer show, I would get in the truck, and basically the whole month of August, that's what I did. And then I went and picked horses, and I'd pick about 100. And then we would x-ray them starting September 1st. And they had to pass 3 vets
Oh, truly?
to get in there.
Did not know that.
So that eliminated some, and we would get down to our 50. But yeah, I mean,
So you didn't have a shortage of owners trying to get their stock into that top 50 slots?
Oh, no.
Like you weren't struggling to find the stock. People were beating down your door to get in there.
Yeah, after the first year, I mean, they would literally start the day after the futurity telling me, hey, I got this one, this one, this one to come look at.
Yeah.
I mean, it got, you know, the last year, I bet we probably looked at 250.
Oh, that many.
You know, people just want to get in there, and you got to narrow it down.
Did you change over the 5 years? You mentioned 5 years. Over the 5 years that you did it, did you change much of the format in the 5 years, or was pretty much the same type of sale? Did you add numbers, take numbers away, change the production? What did you tweak in that 5 years?
So we changed the production every year.
Okay.
Just to make it something new. We wanted when people walked in that door to have a wow
And it was
factor.
always at the cutting futurity,
It
correct?
was always at the cutting futurity, and we did it over there in the Roundup Inn, and we kept the doors locked until we opened it for everybody. And so we did a different production every single year, just to have that when people walked in, I wanted them to have a wow factor. And they did. And it worked. It really worked. But as far as requirements, no, I would try to do a better job every year picking better horses, tried to get more fillies than colts unless a colt was sure enough special.
Why is that? Why'd you want more fillies than colts?
Fillies, to me, fillies sell better unless that colt is special. Like he better look like a stud, move like a stud. He can't have one little inkling that he's going to be a gelding.
Yeah.
or it's not going to work.
Yeah. So pretty much the opposite theory than the reigners. The reigners want all studs.
Yep.
As a general rule. I'm not saying, if you go to the reigning futurity out of 30 horses that make the finals, I'm not saying there won't be 5 mares in there, but 25 of them are going to be studs or geldings, or mainly studs.
Yep.
5 will be mares. So they want the studs way more than the fillies. Yep. And for people that don't follow the reining, that wonder why, as a general rule in the reining, reining is a dictated sport. Do what I tell you to do and only what I tell you to do, which is complete opposite of cutting, complete opposite of cow horse. You want that horse to outthink a cow and work by himself. So the studs will stay a lot more single focused. You know what I mean? They'll do they're not as looky, they're not as hot, they take the training better. They might be a little tougher, but once you go through that toughness, they're like a soldier. Where the reining, I just think fillies as a gender, a filly, they're much more lookier.
Yeah.
Even not just as a cutting horse as a reiner, they'll look at the sign more. They'll look at the judge. Their fillies, they'll look at even half of cows. They're just a lot more athletic. Fillies, to me, are a lot more athletic as a general rule. Especially in the reining, they want those studs, Jeremy, lazy as fuck. You know what I mean? They want them lazy and quiet-eyed because they're galloping them on a loose rein, one-handed as a 3-year-old. So if they're hot, there's no way. That's why you don't see any of the cow-bred horses anymore in the reining futurities, because they just got so damn hot, you couldn't show against them. But for people that are asking, the fillies are a lot more bright-eyed. They're a lot more aware of their surroundings, which in the cutting and cow horses is a positive, isn't it?
Yes, that's what you want. You want them to be a lot brighter and tick hotter. I mean,
Feelier.
Little failure because a little more speed to them. You don't need a slow-footed stud.
Yes, and in the cutting, you're not manipulating their body anywhere near as much as the reining. Like you're not collecting them up, you're not rounding them up as much, you're not moving body parts, you're not shoving them around as much. Where the fillies just kind of have a tendency to tell you to go fuck yourself. They're not gonna take to that training as well. Now again, there's Brian Bell won the futurity a couple of years ago on that Palomino mare. There are mares that have done very well in the reining over the years, but statistically, the studs do way better.
Yes.
Statistically. So that I just wanted to explain that because there's a lot of people listening to the podcast that aren't in the cutting horse world that may not know that. Okay. So you primarily picked fillies unless it was an exceptional stud, and I'm getting the impression you only kept this thing for 5 years. What's the deal?
Yeah, just kept it because we just did it for 5 years just because I feel like after you do something 5 years, you need to find something to change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't really think of anything yet that would change it enough to matter. So, I'm just going to stop for a few years, and then we're going to start it back.
Okay.
And that's my plans here in the next couple of years to start back again with something similar to that. So we adjusted the schedule some, and we did some evening sales with some brood mares and so forth in the other sale rings, and that's worked good. And then our numbers have kind of gotten a lot bigger, so we've had to adjust everything, and it's just finding the time because the cutting has gotten so big, finding a time that you can sell those horses when they're not cutting in the Coliseum
is difficult.
Yeah, so you have to really play with that schedule on what you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm. How much, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine, but I'm going to ask it. How much of the commission that comes out of Western Bloodstock go back to the cutting futurity or purses or any of that? Is there
half of it?
Half of it. So what is the commission of Western Bloodstock to put a horse in the sale?
8%.
8%. So 4% goes back to the Cutting Association.
Yes.
4% goes to Western Bloodstock. Okay, I often wondered that.
And Western Bloodstock pays all the expenses out of their 4%.
They do? Right. Okay. So this is a very big financial important thing for the NCHA to have this sale, correct?
Absolutely. I mean,
do you have an idea of how much of their budget comes from that sale? Half of it? A third of it? Do you have any idea?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I do know, and this is since Jay's been there, but they've taken all of the money they make from the sales now goes directly to the purses.
That's awesome.
It used to not be that way, and that's why the purses have grown the way they have, and that's a great thing that Jay's gotten done.
Yeah,
it's because those sales are very important to the association.
He's pretty innovative, that guy, isn't he?
Yeah, yes.
He's extremely innovative. Me and Jay laugh. I actually interviewed him many years ago to be one of my marketing managers, and I can't remember why we didn't hire him, but he was a hell of a hand. We joke about it all the time, but he's a smart motherfucker. He really is.
He's very smart. He comes up with some ideas and can get it done.
Yes, and he doesn't just do the traditional boring shit.
Nope.
That's, to me, one of my biggest complaints about the equine industry as a whole. I'm not saying just cutting or reining or cow horse, but as a whole, tradition is important because it shows the values of where the sports came from. But sometimes people get so stuck on tradition, they can't change to save themselves.
Oh,
they can't change to look outside the box. You know what I mean? I remember, just like even the cow horse futurity moving from Reno to Fort Worth, how many people pitched a fucking fit about that and threw their hat on the ground and threw their fucking sucker on the ground. And this is a West Coast deal and it's going to fuck the whole thing. The cow horse has done nothing but flourish since it's moved to Fort Worth, hasn't it?
Yes.
You know what I mean? They just get so stuck in their ways that it's got to be a West Coast sport. It was always done in Reno. Now look how big it is.
And you have to change with the times.
You do.
If you stay in the past, you're never going to grow.
Yes.
You've
Doesn't
gotta
mean you have to
change.
abandon tradition, but sure as shit, get outside the box. That's what Jay does. And sure, he gets his fair share of haters for it, but that's what makes him good too.
Well, my grandmother always said, as long as they're talking about you, you're doing something right.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
That's the way I look at it.
I love that. I love that. So, so you took over the sale how many years ago now?
So that's been 13 years now.
13 years. Okay. What have you learnt from being in the sale business that maybe you didn't appreciate when you were actual horse trainer? What are some of the things that you think the general public doesn't know about horse sales?
I've probably just the people and handling the people and the way you have to handle them, because for a lot of these people, and this, I mean, those horses, that's their kids.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So you've got to handle it very carefully.
Yeah, it's hard to tell somebody your kid's fucking ugly.
Exactly.
And I bet you have to kind of do that sometimes.
And sometimes you have to do it, but you've got to find a way to do it that they like it.
Yes.
So it's really helped me in handling people, because there's times I've been a little too blunt. I've gotten way better with that.
Yep.
And so that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned, is just how to maneuver with people and keep everyone happy, because you've got to keep a buyer happy and you got to keep a seller happy.
You're kind of a mediator in a bad divorce, aren't you?
Absolutely.
You really are, because
Absolutely.
the seller wants as much money as he can get for the horse. The buyer's wanting to get it as cheap as he can. You're trying to make a living, and NCHA's trying to make a living. You're like this fucking mediator between two people who have opposite goals.
Exactly. And you may get $150,000 for one, and that seller still think, well, I should have brought $200,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's a lot of money for a yearling.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
But
what the biggest thing that I was curious of what you were going to say, and that is right. You've got to be. You are a very good people person. You've handled that well. I've seen you in some tight spots before where you've really tried to smooth things over, and it's harder than what people think it is. I think as you get older and you start losing your patience more with the human race, it gets even fucking harder again. You know what I mean? That's what I knew. I had to quit being a clinician because I just got so damn cranky and so pissed off with these old ladies and these fucking turds that I just couldn't handle it anymore. You know what I mean? The shit, that the emotional stories that talk about this horse that's biting them on the ass when they go to get on, it's like, fuck a duck, back this son of a bitch up, get in the middle of its shit. You know what I mean? But it's an art there. There's no doubt about it. But one thing I would say to that is, I always get a chuckle of how unrealistic a lot of horse owners are of what their horse is really worth.
Ooh. Yeah.
How unrealistic. Because to me, when I put a horse in a sale, whether it's your sale or anybody else's sale, Melanie and Ty's sale, any sale, it fucking sells.
Yep.
I never bring them home. Ever, ever, ever. And people ask me why. And I'll say, because what it brought is what it was worth.
That's what it was worth that day.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, the odd one slips through that should have gone for a lot more money. That does happen.
Oh, yeah.
But as a general rule, I believe this. Tell me if you think I'm full of shit. I'd say at least 80% of the time, what it brought when the hammer drops is what the public said it was worth. And there's no blue book on these horses, is there?
No, and that's the biggest thing every fall. I mean, you get hundreds of phone calls. Hey, what's my horse going to bring? And I wish I had a freaking crystal ball, I tell you.
Yeah.
I've got a general idea as to what it should bring, and I'm pretty conservative when I tell people prices. I'm not going to say, that horse is going to bring 100. Even if I think it's worth 100, I'm probably going to tell you 60.
Yes.
Because then when you get 100, you're going to be happy.
Yes.
But, man, some of them are just so unrealistic. And, and the way our reserve deal works for ourselves is you can go in the office and fill out a form. Well, that's a hard-ass reserve. I can't change it all. I try to get people to come give me the reserve and let me handle it for them. And because then I can say, okay, we need a little leeway here.
Yeah.
And 90% of the time, they'll say, okay, you get close, what you feel, sell it.
Yeah.
You know, and that works a lot better than, because if they put that hard reserve by law, I can't do nothing about it. It doesn't bring that. It's just a PO.
Let me ask you, what have you seen, you know, the trends over the years of doing the Western Bloodstock sale, of the people that throw their sucker in the dirt and take their horse back from the sale? What do you think the percentage, if you can name it, of people that either regret it once they get it home, or, and what I've seen happens is they, you know, they think it's worth, you know, $100,000. They only get offered 75 for it if they take it home. They sink another $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 into training over 2 years, sell the son of a bitch 2 years later for $60,000. You're like, that's what I see a lot that happens with people that do that.
You see it happen a lot.
Do you agree or disagree with that? Where's your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. You see it a lot. You know, they'll bring their yearling, and it may say it brings 40. Well, they wanted 50, so they didn't sell it. So they take it home, they pay a trainer for 12 months, and they bring it back to the 2-year-old sale. And then it brings 40.
Yeah. With another $30,000 of expenses.
Exactly. I'm like, that made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking with some customers yesterday, and they've done that the last couple of years. I'm like, you've got to quit doing that.
Yeah.
Sell them as yearlings, especially if you have numbers. You're going to have some bring way more than they're worth. You're going to have some bring what they're worth, and you're going to have some bring less than they're worth. But it's going to average out.
It averages out pretty good, doesn't it?
It always, if you've got 5 to 10, it's always going to average out, I guarantee you.
That's exactly right.
But it's crazy that people, they'll get that in their head, and they're just like, nope, I'm not going to sell them.
Did you see it a lot? Because I know my buddy Sam Smith, reining horse trainer, we've talked about this a lot over the years, of the same type of thing of even just training a horse. A trainer, I always tell owners, when a trainer calls you up and theoretically fires your horse and says he's not good enough, you need to come get him, or you need to sell him, or you need to do something different, give him a hug. Give that motherfucker a hug.
Absolutely.
Because he is taking money out of his pocket to try to save you money. But Sam and I always chuckle about how many owners get pissed off. And they get fucking butthurt about it. And they get indignant about it. And they'll jerk other horses out of the barn as well. They'll take it to the guy down the road. The other trainer will say, sure, I'll tote them all. And they'll leave them in training for another 6 months to a year, and the same shit will happen again. Absolutely. But they've just wasted another $2,000, $2,500 a month for another year. You know, we see that a lot in the horse training world, is that they, you know, I always tell owners, if the trainer's honest with you, give him a hug. What's his incentive to send a horse home? None.
You're paying him for his opinion.
Yes.
And if he tells you that horse is not good enough, then he's saving you money.
He's trying to.
But boy, people, they get mad, and you know, and I'm.
You think it's just because of the emotional factor, mate?
There's a lot of emotions in horses. I mean, just like we said a while ago. I mean, it's like they're kids, and it's that emotional value, and that's part of, even on some of those horses they don't sell, is because they're unrealistic because of the emotional ties to that horse.
Yes.
Instead of taking all that out and say, okay, this is what my product is worth, then you have that emotional price you got to pay if you want to buy it from them. And they're the same way on the horses they're training. Is that's their kid. They don't want you to tell you their kid's no good.
Yeah.
But maybe he's no good at that discipline. Maybe you need to try a trainer in another discipline.
Yes.
You know, because I'm a firm believer in there's a place for every horse.
You're damn right there is.
You know, they may not cut, cow horse, they may rope, they may rein, whatever. You can, hell, he may just be the best trail riding horse you can find.
That's exactly right.
And those horses are worth a lot of money now.
A lot of the horses over the years that I absolutely hated training, when I sold them and they got in the right environment, different sport, trail ride, barrel race, the new owners love them.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll call me up all the time and say, thank you for selling me this horse. I was thankful to get rid of it because it just didn't suit me. But that horse in the right sport, or even the right trainer, there's some horses that don't suit me. Every trainer's got their style of horse.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I've done that before as a trainer. I've fired horses and called the owner and said, listen, this is a really good horse, but he won't fit me. Send him to this guy, because this guy's style will absolutely fit this horse. And they've done it and done really well with that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now, a lot of trainers won't do that. Like, they don't want to be outshined by another trainer. Yep. My attitude was, Jeremy, what is best for the horse? Even if the other trainer did better than me, I tell you, 2 years ago we did it with Ty Benson. I had a customer that bought a really nice colt from Ty Smith. He was a really nice colt, but this colt and me just didn't get along. We just didn't see eye to eye. He didn't fit my style, but he had a lot of talent. I called the owners and I said, listen, you don't need to fire this horse. We don't need to sell him, but you need to change jockeys. I'd love to show this horse for you, but I want this horse to do well for you. This trainer will do it. Ty went and showed the horse, won $60,000 on it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And a lot of trainers, I don't think, are willing to lower their ego to do that. I celebrated when that horse won. I wanted to be in the win picture too because I felt part of the win. Does that make sense? And the owners, the owners thanked me for it. Ty thanked me for it, but I wanted to see the horse do well.
And at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about the horse.
Yes.
And you're exactly right. Not every trainer gets along with every horse, and if there's one that maybe will do better somewhere else, they should tell them. It doesn't happen very often, but they should.
Yeah.
Because that's what's best for the horse and best for that customer.
Yeah.
They're going to trust you.
Yeah.
And believe in you a lot more moving forward.
Yes.
Than if you just keep the horse and wreck it.
That's exactly right.
Because
that's what a lot of the time it happens. It gets crippled up or wrecked, and then they got nothing to sell.
Yeah. You have nothing left then.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take a break now, freshen up a cocktail, change tape. But when we get back, I want to pick up the subject of the last 5 years of horse sales because a lot of shit has changed in the last 5 years, from the price of horses to Taylor and Yellowstone to prize money. There's a ton of shit I want to talk to you about because it's just... Nobody would ever believe if you said 5 or 6 years ago that it would be like this today. No, I wouldn't have. No. I don't know about you.
I wouldn't have either.
You get what I'm trying to say?
No,
like
absolutely.
usually there's things change over a 20-year period. There's been like a 20-year change in about a
very quick
6-year window. I've got some theories on why I think it's happened and what caused it. I want to hear your opinions. You agree, you disagree, and your own thoughts on it. So let's take a break now and come back.
Do it.
Cheers.
Breaking Bad is a 2020 stallion by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Out of the all-time leading broodmare Sweet Abra, he is dual-registered AQHA and APHA and is 6-panel NN. At just 5 years old, he has already earned over $200,000 and is still showing. He is nominated to the major NCHA and NRCHA stallion programs and is part of the new Legacy Bonus, which has an estimated payout of $1 million to be paid at the 2025 NCHA Futurity. For more information or to request your breeding contract, contact Beau Gallion Stallion Services or Foltz Ranch at 806-672-6039.
Their hearts thunder for us. Their flesh and bone pushed to lift us higher, carry us faster, and stop on a dime. And when they've had a great ride, they deserve a great recovery. They deserve a Cold Creek. Cold Creek Spas offer state-of-the-art 35-degree aerated saltwater therapy, proven to reduce injury, speed recovery, and keep them at peak performance. Cold Creek Therapeutic Spas. This water is for winners.
This episode is brought to you in part by Silver Spurs Equine, home of the $1 million challenge. So, Jeremy, we're back after a break, mate. So let's talk about the last 5 years, okay? To me, and I want you to call me out. You think I'm full of shit? Now's the time to say it, okay? I think horse prices, as a general rule, have pretty much fucking doubled in the last 5 years. When I got to America in 1997, end of 97, okay, up until 5 years ago, Doug Carpenter is a friend of both of ours, okay, and you did a lot of business with Doug. Doug would go buy me yearlings up until 5 years ago, anywhere between 25 and 50,000 all day long. Could find me some damn good yearlings for an 18-year period. You know what I mean? Sure, there's the odd one that jumps up to 100 or 150, and you could spend what you want, of course. But as a damn good rule, you could find some really nice bred yearlings. If on the low end, 25, the high end, 50, all day long. Once COVID came along, it pretty much doubled the price of horses as far as I'm concerned. Yearlings that I used to have to pay 50 for, I basically can't touch for under 100 now. That's the way I look at it from an outsider. I've got different reasons why I think it... Well, first of all, tell me, you think I'm full of shit or I'm right or wrong that horses have practically doubled in 5 years?
Doubled and sometimes tripled.
Okay.
I absolutely agree with that.
Okay, righto. Okay, next thing I want to ask you is, here's my theories on why it doubled, okay? Part of me says, Clinton, it fucking had to double, and here's why. From 1997 till 5 years ago, add up those years, horse sales were pretty flat. Like I said, you could buy a yearling 25 to 50 every damn year at those sales, Western Bloodstock sales, Rain Futurity sales, very consistently for all those years. I remember the first pickup truck that I bought in America would have been 1998 when I had a little coin in my pocket from doing clinics. A loaded pickup truck was $52,000. Loaded.
Double that now.
It's double that now. Yeah. Okay, so that was in 1998. I bought that pickup truck. I was in Sherman, Texas, 52 grand. F350 loaded, okay? Not like with a Western Hauler bed on it, but just from the factory loaded, okay? You couldn't touch that truck now much under 100, okay? So think about how much trucks have gone up from 1998 to 5 years ago. So we're talking 2020, okay? But horse prices, as a general rule, never did. I remember horses selling like 150 grand, back 15 years ago was a lot of money for a 2-year-old. That was a shit ton of money.
A lot of money.
And it stayed that way for a long time. So part of me says it needed to double in price because pickup trucks, what do they go up? 3 to 5% every year?
Every year.
Every year, pickups go up 3 to 5% every single year. But horses never did. For that period, for that 15 years, Jeremy, horses typically didn't go up much in sale. You had the outliers. There's one year, and I remember one year at the Western Bloodstock brought 350,000. Wasn't that one time Pepto? Didn't he bring 350,000? There's always those outliers there, okay? But looking at the masses, the horse prices didn't go up. Fucking horse training didn't go up. No. It's been $1,250 for how many years?
Forever.
You get what I'm saying? So part of me says it was a market correction that had to happen because us as an industry, we don't go up 3 to 5% on our expenses every year. Now, expenses hit horse trainers, but we're not smart enough to go up 3 to 5% on our training bills every single year. So part of me says it was a rebalance. The other part of me says that prices doubled because when all that government money was put in, all that stimulus COVID money went in, it just blew people's brains off that they had, they basically just got fucking rich and they got money from the government, you know what I mean? So they had extra money. Rolex has doubled in price. Rolex market went through the roof. It's since crashed since then, and it's evened out now, but Rolex watches were bringing double what they were bringing before then. So people had extra cash. I think Taylor Sheraton and Yellowstone had a lot to do with it. I have a love-hate relationship with Taylor. I love him because of what he's doing for the Western industry and how much attention he's brought to it. I hate him just on a personal level because he's made me pay double for my horses. And I give him shit about it all the time, but it's just in good fun. But Taylor's done more for the Western industry than any fucking body in history, in my opinion. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what Taylor's done with Yellowstone and even some of his other shows, I mean, he has brought so much attention to the horse industry as a whole, not just one discipline, but all the disciplines. And he has created huge changes. And just like you said, I mean, the prices have gone through the roof.
He made horses cool again, didn't he?
Yes.
Doug told me in the late, I don't know if it was early 80s or late 80s, you might remember, but there was like Western wear and J.C. Penney. Yep. Like Western wear was cool for the city people. Yep. He made horses and rural life and being a cowboy cool again.
Yeah, because back when I was a kid, it was cool to be a cowboy, and then it kind of faded away. But he brought that back where it's cool to be a cowboy. And then when COVID hit, well, it gave people a reason like, well, hell, why don't I go do this? I can go outside and do this, and I don't have to wear a damn mask.
Yeah.
So I think the two of them together just really exploded it all. I think. And as far as, horse prices, a correction that I think needed made for a long time, and you'll remember this, I mean, you could go buy 2-year-olds cheaper than you could yearlings,
yes.
Which never made sense to me. Like, why would you pay more for a yearling than you could walk across the street the next day and buy a 2-year-old that's already had a year's training?
Yeah.
But it was that way. And so the last few years, that correction's been made where yearlings are still bringing really good money, but now when you bring that yearling back as a 2-year-old and it's a good horse, it'll bring $300, $400, $500 million.
Let me ask you, what do you think made that correction, mate? It went so many years where you were correct. It made no financial sense. Why would you give 75 for a year and 100 for a year, and when you can go buy the same yearling a year later with a year's training where you can see what it can do for 50? And that was like that for many years.
Oh, long time.
What do you think pushed that correction to flip to the way it is now? Was there any single thing, or what do you think? Education? What's your gut say about that?
I think people got more educated, but I think people also wanted the more instant gratification.
Okay.
You know, they could buy that 2-year-old, and in 12 months, they can come right back and show it in the futurity, where that yearling was going to take 2 years. Mm-hmm. So they're still buying the yearlings and paying good money for them. But if you have that outstanding 2-year-old, you're going to buy it, because if you go around, I mean, you do this too, you go around the fall of the 3-year-old year and you try to buy that outstanding 3-year-old, you can't buy it.
No, you can't do it.
Like, they won't even price it.
Yeah.
So you better step up and buy that top line 2-year-old if you want to have a chance come next December. Mm-hmm. And so I think people have finally stepped up and started doing that. And I mean, those 2-year-old prices have gone crazy. And, you know, and that's a whole other market for those guys. And they've done an outstanding job staying home, training those colts, having them where they need to be, but not too far. There's a fine line there. And those guys can buy them, finish them out, and come back and show them and do really well. So that's been a huge market. But that was a correction that I felt like needed to change, because it never made sense to me, just watching it growing up, that you could buy a 2-year-old for less than you could buy a yearling for. That just made no sense to me.
And like you said, at a 3-year-old or older, another reason why people don't want to sell them is most of the people that own these horses are independently wealthy. So they might have started with 6 yearlings or 10 yearlings. When they got that one that's pretty cool, unless it's life-changing money, they don't want to sell it.
Well, and
you could offer them $350,000, $400,000 for it, and they're like, "Fuck, I make that on a Sunday. If it's not life-changing money, why am I going to sell it?"
Well, absolutely, because I mean, it's so competitive now in every discipline. If you want to be in the top 5, definitely the top 1 at any of those events, you've got to have a pretty special horse. So you go try to buy it, just like I said, those guys are independently wealthy. They don't, very seldom does a guy own one that doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
So if you're going to buy it, it's going to have to be life-changing money, or they're not going to sell it. Why would they? Because they want to hear their name called on finals night.
Damn right. They want the status more than the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I always find it interesting. I haven't seen any other industry do this yet, unless you can think of one. The cutting horse industry has made their own little niche market on 2-year-old guys that want to stay home, raise a family. They don't want to show. They love riding horses. They'll ride 6 days a week, train 2-year-olds, and then, January 1st or after the futurity, they go off to other trainers and they get a whole nother set in. The reining industry has never done that yet. They haven't, as far as just 2-year-old trainers that will train horses that other guys own and theoretically other customers other customers of other trainers. I don't know of barrel racing or any other industry that's done that. Do you know of any other industry that's done it?
There's not really. There's a few colt starters that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about guys that keep a horse for its entire 2-year-old year. Why do you think it's worked in the cutting world, but it hasn't worked in reining, barrel racing, or any of the other Western disciplines?
I don't know. I've thought about that a lot myself, and I'm not sure why. I mean, the cow horse guys, they're kind of doing it now because they're buying them from those 2-year-old guys that are starting the cutters. But why some of the other disciplines don't do that? Because it seems to me like I always felt like you get that horse as far along as you can without blowing his mind as a 2-year-old, and make that 3-year-old year easy and fun for him, rather than half-assing the 2-year-old year. And then you got to hound on them their 3-year-old year. Well, it's not going to be very much fun for them.
Yeah.
So,
it's already hard enough to train a 3-year-old as it is, let alone catching up a 2-year-old year that was done poorly.
And nowadays, those guys are going to so many shows.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think it was just out of necessity, not to take credit away from the cutting horse world, but they didn't really have a fucking choice? Like, Matt and Tara said this year they were away at one point for like 69 days straight. Yeah, they're going for the cutting shows are so long now that maybe they didn't have a choice but to do that.
Well, and too, back in the day, especially in the cutting, most of the trainers had assistant trainers that stayed home and rode those horses while they were gone. Well, now, I mean, you have an assistant trainer. Well, it ain't 3 months later, he's a horse trainer, so he's leaving.
Yes.
Or some of those assistant trainers back in the day are now what our 2-year-old guys are. So rarely do we see any assistant trainers anymore. Those guys from the past, they either went on and became full-fledged horse trainer themselves, or they are some of those 2-year-old guys that we see now that have their own business and they can run it themselves and do better for themselves than just being an assistant trainer.
I noticed some grumbling in the reining horse world now that the reining shows have started to get so much money, it's almost copying the cutting now. The reining prize money has really jumped up, not just at the Futurity, but most of the major shows now, especially the 100X shows, etc. That reining horse trainers are telling me now how there's so many horse shows to go to, they can't hardly train their horses anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're having to really pick and choose where they're going. They're taking their 3-year-olds, like Cutters and Taurus have taken their 3-year-olds like luggage, haven't they? Everywhere they go, they take their 3-year-olds as luggage. Reiners are almost to the same point now, where whatever horse show they go to, even though they're not showing a 3-year-old, they've got to take it with them, because if they're not, they're never going to get to ride the damn thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, every discipline, there's so many shows. I was talking to someone this morning just on the cuttings, since the Futurity, from the Futurity to the Super Stakes, which is the second leg of the Triple Crown, well, there's 6 major aged events during those 3 months. So, and they're nearly all 10 days long. So you figure, okay, out of 90 days, that's 60 days you're gone.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them, if they had a barn full of 2-year-olds, to really do it. So I don't know why the other disciplines haven't picked that up. Maybe.
Do you think maybe they're frightened that the 2-year-old guy's going to try to steal their customer?
And maybe that is. I personally don't know as many of the reiners as you would know, so I don't know what their thinking would be there, but I would think it would benefit them. If that guy's just training 2-year-olds and you like the way that guy starts a 2-year-old,
yeah,
I don't know why you wouldn't do it, and your horse would be much better come January 1st of his 3-year-old year for you to go on and finish out than if he's just kind of had sporadic training as a 2-year-old because you've been gone so much.
Yeah. Yeah, they need that consistent 6 days a week. That consistently there every, 5, at least 5, but 6 days a week, consistently riding them.
I'm a big believer in the 2-year-old year is the most important year.
Yeah.
If it's done really bad, well,
You're screwed. Aren't you?
And if it's done really well, your 3-year-old year is going to be so much easier.
I've always, even though I've been a clinician, I always wanted to be a horse trainer. That's what I wanted to do, when I grew up and if I won the lottery. I trained, it was a clinician because that's where the money was. I'm not ashamed to say it. I went where the money was, okay? Now I'm doing what I want to do, which is train horses. But I always wanted to be a horse trainer. So I was always very pro-horse trainer, sticking up for the horse trainers. I know a lot of the horse trainers shit on the clinicians and things, but I was always pro-horse trainer. And I brought up money back in the Gauge podcast, talking about horse trainers will not charge what they're worth. They will not bill for what they're worth. I would love to see 2-year-old horse trainers that specialize in 2-year-olds charge a real premium, because and give a premium service now, mind you, not take 75 horses and only ride 50 of the motherfuckers, but really do a hell of a job. Because to me, a 2-year-old guy, if it's done correctly, like you said, it's worth its weight in gold. If it's done incorrectly, all he does is make the 3-year-old trainer want to rip his hair out and drink every night for the next year.
Absolutely.
Okay, but if it's done right, he just sets that 3-year-old trainer up for a great year.
Yes. I mean, those guys can make or break you.
Yes.
And I agree. I mean, and some of them are starting to charge what they're actually worth. Some of them are still, to me, not charging enough, but they need to get to a point where they can prove themselves for that. You take a Wes Ashlock, for instance. I mean, he's brought several to the Futurity sales now that sold for $1 million, have gone on and won hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm going to mention this right now. We both know a lot of horse trainers, what they charge. I'm going to make a statement. Tell me I'm full of shit, okay? I think every horse trainer across the board, when I say everyone, I'm assuming you've got a skill set and some ethics there. I'm not talking about the guy in the middle of Mississippi that's, doing backyard horses, okay? But in the performance horse world, cutting, reining, cow horse, I think every trainer needs to be charging at least $1,000 a month board, $1,000 a month training, that's $2,000. They need to be charging $300-400 a month cattle fee, straight off the bat. It's been $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, Jeremy, for 15 years.
Oh, yeah, forever.
Think about how much wages. COVID is doubled expenses, living expenses. Shit, I went and got an ice cream the other day. A fucking 2 scoops of ice cream at Freddy's Custard was $6, for Christ's sake, for 2 scoops in a dish. It's like, fucking, how do people afford to live? $50,000 as a salary now barely gets you by. So to me, every horse trainer needs to quit undercutting each other. Every horse trainer I've ever done, because I do a lot of consulting, everyone I've told them to raise their price, they're all frightened to death customers are going to leave. They all call me back a month later and say nobody left. In fact, they gain more.
Yep.
So tell me I'm right or wrong about that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I can remember when Adon talked to me about when he was first going to go to 2,500. Mm-hmm. And he was actually hoping that he would lose some horses because he had so many. And I'm like, you're not going to lose any horses. Yeah. And he didn't lose any. He got more. You know, because and a lot of people looking at it because they've never either had a horse trainer staying at their place, working out of their place where they paid all the bills to know what that cost. But horse trainers are not making money off that training. No. If they can't win and win a lot and sell some horses and make those commissions, they're not making any money because, especially if they keep any cattle. Because cattle are expensive.
And that's why I'm saying they need to charge a cattle fee. Sam Smith told me something 18 years ago, I never forget when I first met him, 1995. He said, Clinton, horse trainers make money off commissions and prize money.
Yep.
I said, don't you make money training horses? He said, no, it's a wash. Training horses, the money you make off that just keeps the ranch up, keeps the employees paid. There is no profit in the actual horse training bill. Selling horses and getting commissions, and half of the prize money is how you get ahead. You know, that is, well, not even get ahead. That's just your profit for the year.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way for them to ever get ahead off of just that training. I mean, your expenses are too much. I mean, trucks, trailers, a facility, whether you own it or rent it, your cattle cost, your feed, your labor, your shavings.
How do you feel about trainers in the cutting and cow horse world? Because I charge a flat $300 a month cattle fee, you know, per horse, per month, once they get worked on cattle. How do you feel about that as an industry standard? Because typically cutting horse trainers eat all that shit. Yeah. They eat all that cattle expense. Well, you know, that's eating into their damn profit there. I don't know very many people that charge a cattle fee, do you?
No. And
Tell me why.
And me, as a past trainer and now owner, I wouldn't have a problem with the guys that ride horses for me charging that because I know they're not making money. They're barely paying their bills.
Mm-hmm. Spud told me that he's losing about $4,000 a month on cattle.
Oh, easily, I bet.
Yeah, $4,000 a month. He loses just on cattle that feed going out the door, etc. It's a losing enterprise. That doesn't sound like a good business model.
No, it's terrible. You know, because those guys.
Did it used to be cheaper? Is that why people never charged for it, Jeremy? 20 years ago, were cattle easier to find? Is there something that's changed in 20 years that made it lose money, or was it losing money when you first started training horses too?
Well, no, we always lost money on our cattle too, but it wasn't as bad because they were a little easier to find, but now they're harder to find, and now that the value of them so much, guys just don't even want to send them out. Mm-hmm. But it's always been a money loser, you know, because they just don't want to pay. They can feed them just as cheap at their own yard, so why would they pay you more to feed them at your place?
Yes.
So they're going to pay you as little as they possibly can, and then you're only going to keep them 60 days. Mm. Well, there ain't enough time for them to gain any weight anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so I know there's a few guys that say they make money on their cows, this and that. Well, maybe. But 98% of them are losing their ass on them.
Silver Spurs Equine owns and stands over 30 champion performance horse stallions. They strive to provide options to top prospects for every preference and budget. Reining is the main focus of Silver Spurs breeding program, and they have developed their $1 Million Challenge as an incredible incentive that offers huge payouts to the champions of 7 different reining competitions around the world. Silver Spurs also raises about 150 foals per year at their ranch in Oklahoma, and each one is offered to the public for sale. This provides a wide variety of options to buyers looking for their next prospect, and most would be eligible for the $1 Million Challenge. Find the perfect cross of traditional performance horse bloodlines combined with the modern dynamics of today's performance horses. All available prospects can be found at silverspurssalehorses.com.
Ever wanted to own a champion? Clinton Anderson, world-class horse trainer and competitor, has been spotting and developing promising horses into greatness for decades. Now, he is offering an exclusive ownership opportunity to create champion horses. Introducing Clinton Anderson's Performance Partnership. In this exclusive program, you and Clinton will co-own a top-tier performance horse that will be meticulously trained and cared for by Clinton Anderson himself. This isn't just an investment, it's a first-hand experience of horsemanship excellence. With Clinton's help and advice, you'll choose the horse that resonates with your ambitions, and Clinton takes the reins from there. From training to stabling, from the practice arena to the winner's circle, Clinton's unwavering dedication ensures that your equine athlete reaches its full potential. This partnership is about more than business. It's about a shared passion for equestrian excellence. And Clinton Anderson isn't just your trainer, he's your partner, fully invested in every horse's success. Together, you'll share in the excitement, the prestige, and the profits. Membership is strictly limited to ensure each investor receives personalized attention and commitment. It's your chance to be part of an exclusive equine ownership community that combines the excitement of competition with the satisfaction of success. Don't miss your opportunity to join Clinton Anderson's Performance Partnership, a unique collaboration that transforms dreams into equine champions. Experience the heart of horsemanship excellence. Find out more at ClintonAndersonPerformanceHorses.com.
Hopefully this might set a trend, and if you horse trainers are listening to me, grow a pair of fucking balls and just start charging. I'm not saying you charge $1,000 a month, but tack on anywhere from $250 to $350 a month just a cattle fee. You know, from when you start really working cattle 5-6 days a week and start at least recouping that money. You know, I went down to a hunter jumper show down in Wellington there in January of this year, and a buddy of mine's real big into the jumping horses down there. He said, he said to me, the average training bill of a hunter jumper / jumping horse trainer down there in Wellington, Florida, is $7,500 a month. That's an average bill. That's not going to a horse show. That's just board and training and shoeing. That's it. And I said, well, how much do you take of the prize money? He said 10%. So he said, we don't keep hardly any prize money, but we get it in the training bill. Yeah. The Western industry is complete ass backwards.
Yeah,
they bet on the come. They get half the prize money, but they make the training bill as low as possible to get the owner involved. And he said, Clinton, the $7,500, that's not the real good guys. That's just the average bill. Anywhere from 65 to 75 is right where 90% of them lay. The really good guys, the jumping guys, the hunter jumper guys, they're up closer to $10,000 a month. That's before hauling, all that kind of shit. So those horse trainers are making bank. Yeah, those horse trainers can actually make a living. I'm not saying that the Western horse industry could handle that. I don't think it could. Okay, but it sure needs to. Again, I'm pro horse trainer, assuming the horse trainers are doing their job, they're not fucking the owners, and horse trainers, I think, are notorious for their own worst enemy, is that because their prices are so low, they've got to take on too many horses than they can really ride to make a living. So it's a bad cycle. Yep. They can only ride 25, but they've got 40 in training, so 15 of them sitting around with their thumb up their ass. If they could just double their price or increase their prices by 50%, go back to 25 horses, make a better living, and do a better job on those 25.
No,
you agree or disagree with that?
No, I absolutely agree, because I think there's places where they have too many horses, because I know it's not possible to ride 50 horses. Mm-hmm. When you have that many in training, there's some horses falling through the cracks.
Very much so.
I would rather charge more and ride less.
Yes.
Because right now when you're doing that, and that's exactly why they have to do it, because what they charge is just not enough.
Yeah.
But there's good horses that are never going to see the show pen because of it.
That very much so. That could have made it.
Yes.
I charge $1,100 a month board, $1,000 for training, $300 cattle fee, and $400 a month for the spa. Because the $400 a month, my vet bills, since I put them in the spa 6 days a week for 20 minutes in that spa, my vet bills have been cut back by at least 2/3.
Oh, I bet so.
So I love my vet to death, Dr. Reese Hand, but instead of him getting all that money, I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
The customer was going to spend that $400 a month anyway, whether it was on injections, whatever it is. They were going to spend that money on horse health care. I just say that because of the spa, we've cut back those vet bills by 2/3. So I'm $2,700 a month. You know what I mean? And I tell people, listen, I'm a boutique. I'm really expensive, but I'm going to see your horse every day. I'm the only one that's going to be riding it, and I'm going to know every hair on its body. So you want to go put it in a barn with 75 head? That's okay. But you're competing against 75 people that have got more money than you.
Yeah, you're
So
exactly right.
unless you are in the top 5 money people in his barn, good luck your horse getting that much attention.
Yep.
You know, it's got the shittiest assistant riding it. So I think horse trainers should take less horses in training, charge more money, do a better job, give them less stress, less headaches, etc. Agree, disagree? You think I'm wrong?
I agree. It would definitely be a lot less stressful on them because, I mean, I've been there, done that.
Yeah,
and
you have been there and done it, yes.
It's hard on them. You're having to deal with that many different people and that many horses, and then the more horses you have, the more labor you got to have, where you're still not making any money because you just got more going out. You got more horses, that's more cattle, more feed, more shavings, more labor. You're just going further in the hole.
I said this publicly, and I'm not ashamed to say it. The 1 year I lost money, I almost went bankrupt. The 1 year I lost money in Stephenville, Texas there, I grossed $14 million that year and still lost $375,000 the same year. It was the only year in my business that I lost money, in my whole career, but I lost money because I got so big it got away from me. I had 40 employees. I had money. I paid attention to the gross. I should have been paying attention to the net.
To the net, yep.
Does that make sense? And I've learned that lesson now. I'm down to 8 employees now. Now, I don't gross anywhere near like I used to, but I got to be honest, my net now with 8 employees is not far off what I did when I was grossing all that money. So I pay only attention to the net now, not the gross.
Oh, yeah. The gross doesn't mean anything if you don't net very much.
No, that's exactly right. So, I had to learn that the hard way, Jeremy. Bigger is not always better. No. It's more headaches, more employees. To me, that's where I see the Achilles heel in the horse industry, because I want to talk about where the horse industry is going and the things that have changed in the last 5 years. But where I see the major Achilles heel for the horse industry right now is in the labor. Finding young people that want to do this and want to commit their lives to it and really put the work in to get it. I must get 4 or 5 calls a week, Jeremy, of horse trainers calling me. Do you know of any help? You got any kids? Anybody come through your academy? I'm needing an assistant trainer. They are really struggling to find young people that want to work the amount of hours it takes to be successful in this industry. Do you hear the same things or not?
I get those calls every day.
Okay.
This younger generation, they do not want to work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they were just raised not to work or if they're just that damn lazy. Yep. If telephones and computers have made them that lazy, I don't know. But it's crazy. I mean, and we're fortunate in our main people at the breeding facility and so forth are our core people. They're legit. But our turnover in the people that work under them is insane because heavens forbid we have to work 7 days a week during breeding season. Yeah. That's the job. You got to work. You do what you have to do to make a living and make things work. But
it's a lifestyle, isn't it?
Yes. The young generation, they don't want to work. Mm-hmm. They don't want to work at all.
I've got a really wealthy customer that is a big-time farmer. And he said, Clinton, I have trouble finding people to sit in an air-conditioned fucking cab of a tractor, air-conditioned with GPS on it now, that it drives itself. It's almost self-driving. And they got XM radio, satellite radio, air-conditioned, heated tank tickler. I mean, the whole fucking tractor is tricked out. He said, I have trouble finding people to even drive a tractor in the air conditioning to do this.
Yep. When I was younger, hell, I would have went anywhere to work with horses or what have you in agriculture world, any part of it. But this younger generation, they do not want to work.
No.
They all want a position, and they want to start out making $100,000 a year. They don't want to start at the bottom and work their way up. I mean,
what do you think that's going to do to the horse industry, mate? It's got to have a crippling effect on it at some point. What do you think is going to change, or it's not going to change?
At some point, it probably is going to have an effect on it, or either people will kind of downsize a little bit so they can do more themselves. But at some point, it does have to take an effect because you can only do so much yourself that you got to have some help.
Yeah.
And if you can't get them, you've got to downsize a little bit.
Talk to me about the last 5 years that, you said you agreed with me that horses have pretty much doubled in price. And that trickles down to everything. It trickles down to, well, hell, if you would have told me 5-6 years ago that you'd have to give $75,000 for a really good roping horse now, I would have laughed at you and said, those cheap motherfuckers. I have a love-hate relationship with ropers. I know a lot of ropers and I'm buddies with them, but I always had a love-hate relationship with them because I hated them because they always got to buy our horses 20 cents on the dollar.
Yep.
We'd pay $100,000 for a yearling that didn't work out. They get to swoop in a year later, pick the son of a bitch up for $25,000 and go make it work, okay? So now that they haven't actually paid some really good money to get a roping horse, a really good roping horse, and they're bitching about money, I'm like, get you some of that, motherfucker. Like, get you some of the rest of the horse industry. But if you would have told me 6 years ago that it's going to take, you don't get much rope horse for under $50,000 now anymore, do you?
No, because I actually own a couple now, and they cost more than $50,000.
That's what I'm getting at. 75 to me is the new low.
Yeah.
To get a nice roping horse that'll really do its job and knows its job well, that's on the low end, okay? But if you would have said 6 years ago that you'd have to give $75,000 to buy a nice roping horse, you'd say, I want a world champion for that, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. You would have never thought 5 years ago that you would have had to pay that for one.
Why do you think that industry has jumped up so much in price?
I think that industry, the different incentives, you've got Riata, Royal Crown, the Gold Buckle Futurities. You've got all these different stallion incentive programs that are paying. We've only had 3 events so far with just our Gold Buckle Futurities.
So tell me what your Gold Buckle, because I don't know a lot about it. So dumb it down for me. What is your Gold Buckle series? What is it?
So we have head and hilling, tie down, and breakaway.
Okay.
We have 4 and under, 6 and under, and then we have some non-pro classes also. And we've had 3 events now, and we've paid out $2 million. Mm-hmm. And so we have a stallion incentive with it. Any horse can enter our events, but we have a stallion incentive with it that we pay everything the stallion owners pay in. We pay 100% of it back out.
Okay.
So we've paid out a lot of money those last few years. Well, Royal Crown, they pay out a lot of money. Riata pays out. So these rope horses, they can win a couple $100,000. Mm-hmm. I know.
And 6 years ago, that wasn't the case.
No. I mean, they'd have to go rodeo for 10 years to do that.
So basically, what's caused the initial horse price to go up is because of the prize money, correct?
Prize money.
It follows the prize money. When the prize money goes up,
Yep.
the value of the horse goes up.
It's all relative to what you can win. When you can win a lot on one, it's pretty easy to tell that owner, hey, let's give $100,000 for this one because we can win $300,000 or $400,000 on it.
Yeah.
When you can't, it's pretty hard to get them to give that kind of money for one. So the prize money to me is it is what causes the price of horses to go up. I mean, if you can't win a lot of money, you're probably not going to pay a lot of money.
It's what's even got me baffled is I spent some time around Miles Baker, and crazy is he's telling me they're even breeding their own bloodlines of rope horses now. Like they're breeding specifically for rope horses.
Absolutely.
I never would have believed that in a million years, 7-8 years ago, because they've always bought our throwaways, reiner throwaways, cutter throwaways, cow horses that couldn't make it, reining, cutting cow horse, ropers that would sweep in and buy for 20 cents on the dollar. I would have laughed in your face if you would have told me 7-8 years ago, oh yeah, we're going to actually start breeding our own rope horses.
Well, I mean, we
Would you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we sold one at Triangle Sales here just the end of January for Flag Ranch. That was a Stevie, but out of a rope horse mare, the Flag Ranches brings $325,000. Just turned 2-year-old rope horse prospect.
That's amazing.
Did you ever think you'd see that?
Never in a billion years.
I mean, that's crazy money. But what these horses can go on and win now is, it's limitless. I mean, people get behind it. They sponsor it. The stallions are all behind it. I mean, all these payouts, the different incentives, I think it's just going to continue to grow those payouts. Mm-hmm. I mean, you take the Futurity last year, the horse that won the Futurity, by the time you got done with all the incentives, I think he won $480,000.
That's the NCHA Futurity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
how much does it pay to win the Cutting Futurity now? $350?
I think the Futurity itself paid $300, and then with all the other incentives.
And you guys have an incentive with Western Bloodstock too, correct?
Oh yeah, we have Valley Equine has an incentive, and Western Bloodstock has an incentive, and then Austin was second, and because he was eligible for a couple more incentives, I think he won $500,000.
He won more than the winner
for being second. I mean, it's crazy just the amount of money that they can win now. So that's going to drive the prices up. I mean, when you can win that kind of money, then they're worth a little more.
Okay, so we've talked about horses have doubled in the last 5 years. You know, I got out of breeding when I moved to Arkansas from Stephenville because it was just before COVID, because I thought to myself, why breed? Because I can just go buy your fillet. I can buy the best cut of meat out of your cow, give a premium for it. But again, premium before COVID was not that unreasonable.
Exactly.
Now, 50 grand won't touch you a yearling, okay? So for the last 5 years, in my opinion, and you know this better than anybody, so that's why I want to really hear your opinion on this, it's been a seller's market. Sellers have had buyers by the balls for the last 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, as a general rule, okay, that it's been a seller's market for the last 5 years. I'm going to say right now, I'm going to make a prediction. I think it's going to be flipped to be slightly to a buyer's market the next 5 years, and here's why. What I saw from your sale last year, and I don't have numbers in front of me to prove this, just a gut instinct talking to people. Yearlings that were out of a mare that never won any money or very little and certainly didn't produce anything, up until last year, so pre-2024, you couldn't hardly touch those horses on 50 grand. They were still bringing 50 grand. Yep. The turds that had no bloodlines on, they might have been by Stevie Ray Vaughan, they might have been my Metallic Cat, a great start on the top. But if they weren't out of something that won or produced on the bottom, they were still bringing 50 grand, okay? Now, that's assuming they vet and some things like that, okay? But last year at your sale, for the first time in 5 years, I saw the horses that had limited breeding on the dam side bringing anywhere from 20 to 30, 35,000. And I have consistently. I haven't seen that in almost 5 years. That tells me that supply has started to catch up with demand. Am I right or wrong? Am I full of shit? What's your opinion? You know it better than anybody, Jeremy. So talk frank with me.
So I'll say this. So yearlings actually averaged more last year than they had ever averaged.
Okay. So I'm full of shit and wrong.
Well, no, you're partly right on some things. So they averaged more, but we also sold 200 more yearlings than we had ever sold since I owned the company.
So how many, before last year, what was the total you'd sell?
Typically around 400 yearlings.
And last year was?
600.
Okay, so you went up a lot, 200 yearlings.
Yeah, we sold 200 more yearlings.
A third.
Yes, and ended up selling 85% of them.
Okay.
You know, so I agree that some of those out of the lesser mares, they were probably down just a tick, but the other ones were up, so it made the average higher.
Do you think that extra 200 horses is because there was so much money to be made theoretically in breeding horses that everybody just put a mare in foal? If it had a fucking uterus, they stuck it in foal.
Well,
yes or no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't, like brood mares. Oh, historically, brood mares were the cheapest thing to buy.
They were, weren't they? Yes.
You can't even buy one now.
Yes.
I mean, I've got a list of people that want to buy brood mares. We can't even buy them.
Yes.
They won't price them. So, but it goes back to supply and demand.
So, do you think supply is starting to catch up with demand?
I absolutely think we're getting there, and I actually thought we were there last year.
Okay.
When we had that many more yearlings, I thought, man, these things are going to get a lot cheaper. But they didn't.
Now, remember, the 200 extra that you sold, that doesn't include all the ones that went to horse trainers.
Exactly.
That, there might have been another 1,000 that just went out to horse trainers to be trained,
exactly.
not to go through the sale. So, I know 200 doesn't sound like a big number on a national scale, but they're just the ones that got sold in your sale.
Just in that one
Not
sale.
all the other sales all over the country.
Exactly.
And not the ones that went to horse trainers.
Yep. So, but I do think supply and demand it's gonna hit there.
You don't think it's there yet?
I don't know that we're there yet.
What tells you that?
But just because of the prices last year.
Okay.
They were still plenty healthy. You even with those, unless they were flushing them or ixing them or what have you, that lesser mare, if she just carried that colt, they were still at 5 to 10 times their breeding fee. To me, that's making money.
Yep.
If you're doing it, unless you're paying somebody to do everything for you, you're making money if you're at 5 to 10 times your breeding fee. But what I've noticed is ICSI is like rampant. Like it's insane. Last year,
You think it's good or bad?
I think it's terrible.
Tell me why.
Well, for one, I don't think it's good for the mare.
Okay.
Just my opinion. I don't know that there's not enough research
Explain
out there.
to the people that are not real versed in the performance horse world what the ICSI is. Like, just in layman's terms, tell the viewers what that is, what that process is.
Basically, they go into that mare's uterus and they pull out all of the oocytes, and then you grow everything in petri dishes, and what makes embryos makes embryos. But that mare is no different than a woman. She's only born with so many. And every time you stick that needle in there, to me, that's got to be causing damage. You know, I think what ICSI was created for the older mare to try to get one or two more out of is a great thing. But, and I don't think we'll know this for another 10 or 15 years, but as those mares age, and you've ICSI'd these mares a lot, are we going to have a lot of 12, 13-year-old mares you can't breed anymore?
Maybe.
That's not good for the horse. You know,
I'm not going to disagree, but I'm going to make a counter offer, okay? Princess and Diamonds, I owned her. She's an NRHA Hall of Fame mare. She produced over $1 million of winners in the Reigners, so she's in the NRHA Hall of Fame, okay? She had 26 foals over a period of about 15 years, okay? Out of respect to the breeder and person that I'm referencing now, I'm not going to mention their name. They didn't give me permission. This lady did ICSI and got, just on one particular mare, got 17 foals born 1 year out of the same mare.
that's not healthy.
I'm just saying, we skipped 17 fucking years. So the counter argument is, I can figure out in 1 year, now that's extreme, 17 foals, 17 eggs were born out of one mare in 1 year, okay, which normally would have taken 17 theoretical years to get that done. But I asked her why you did it, and she said, well, one, I wanted to experiment to see if it could be done, and two, when we go to ride them, we're going to figure out real quick out of 17 if this mare's going to produce shit or not. What's your counter argument to that? I'm not saying she's right or wrong. It's an argument that was put forward to me.
Oh, absolutely. But in my opinion,
Because out of Princess and Diamonds, I was getting 3-4 embryos out of her, traditional embryos every year. So I was getting, some years I'd only get 2, some years I'd get 5, but I'd average 3 or 4 every single year. But I remember when I first came over here, the embryo transfer was a big deal. And everybody said it was going to ruin the industry. Everybody said these embryo transfers are going to flood the market, fuck everything up. And in my opinion, it hasn't done that. So are we just going through that same cycle again, but saying that ICSI is just going to fuck up the market? I'm just presenting ideas here.
well, I think it all goes back to supply and demand. You know, if you have 1 or 2 babies out of that mare, are they worth more than those 17? Because you're competing with yourself with that many foals. I just don't, just my opinion of what's best for the horse, I don't think that's what's best for the horse. You know, obviously there's lots of people that have different opinions on it. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's great for what it was created for. Through the breeding facility, you see issues with those mares after they're ICSI'd, and they get a little harder to flush. They get a little harder to get to carry babies. I'm about the horse.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm just not sure that's the best thing for the horse.
Well, one thing's for sure is I'll make a prediction. I think the people that have been breeding average mares with very little money won or very little money produced from their foals, I think they're about to get a reality check in the next 5 years, that they're going to get their ass handed to them, but those colts are not going to bring anywhere near what they thought they were going to bring. Because I think, now, the good ones are still going to bring the money. The ones out of the good mares, the ones out of producing mares, absolutely, they're going to make money. But if you think if it's got a uterus and you're going to breed it to metallic cat and spend $10,000 on a stud fee and you're going to get $75,000 for that, you're dreaming.
You know, but
you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I agree, because most people don't go and look at the individual. They look at that catalog page.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. I mean, you take the horse that won the Futurity this year. His mother was never trained. That's her first colt.
Yeah.
He wins the Futurity.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have the mindset that, oh, that mare didn't win anything, she didn't produce nothing yet, that, oh, it's just not any good, that's a bad mindset. Because to me, you need to go look at that horse, because conformationally, unless that horse is made to do your discipline, it don't make shit how he's bred.
Yeah.
He ain't gonna do it. So But it's funny to me that how many people will sit there in the stands and buy horses and never go look at them. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing you could do.
They're buying a pedigree.
You're buying that paper, and that's the worst thing you can do.
Doug Carpenter taught me many lessons. He was a great mentor of mine, and when he would pick horses in the pasture or anywhere, he looked at the horse's conformation first, athletic ability second in the round pen or even just loping around the pasture, and papers third. I remember one time we were looking at horses in somebody's pasture, and the breeding managers said, "Oh, that one's started rattling off the breeding." And Doug stopped her and said, "Don't tell me how they're bred." And she said, "What?" He said, "I don't want to know how they're bred. We're looking at like 30 fillies in a pasture." He said, "I don't want to know how they're bred." And then after, 30, 40 minutes, he said, "Tell me about how that one's bred." And then he'd ask about a few individuals. And when we got in the truck, I said, "Why didn't you want to know how they're bred?" Because he said, "It'll mind fuck you."
Yep.
He said, "It'll be out of the futurity champion by a great stud out of a great mare." And he said, "It'll be a dog." He said, "Pick them off conformation first, then how they move and athletic ability second. And the last thing I want to focus on is how they're bred." And he had more futurity champions in the reining world and cow horse world than anybody put together. And he could damn well pick a cutter too.
And that's,
you know what I mean? But he never ever wanted to look at color, and he never wanted to look at pedigree. Pedigree was the last thing on his approval rating.
Yeah, and that's why he was so great at picking that great horse. Because first and foremost, that confirmation has to be there.
Yeah.
If it's not there. If it's not there for that discipline you're wanting to do, it's not going to work.
And then even if the confirmation's there, if it's not athletic ability to do that job in the round pen, getting around, stop, turn, whatever your discipline is, yes, each discipline needs different things.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't have the athletic ability, it's a waste of time.
Absolutely.
And then after that, it really doesn't matter how it's bred, does it?
Don't make sure. and you see that in the 2-year-old sale, you really see it because, yearlings, they buy them off paper. But 2-year-old sale, they better be a good horse. And they don't care how they're bred.
Truly.
If they're a good horse, it doesn't make a shit how they're bred. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I've seen a lot of them out of great mares that never produced a damn thing. Mm-hmm. But I've seen some out of mares that didn't win nothing. But and you never know on some of those mares why they didn't win nothing. But if that mare has the conformation and moves around good and then has some pedigree behind her, I'll take a chance on breeding her because I'm like, you don't know the backstory. Maybe.
My best 2-year-old that I got this year, I bought it as a yearling. My best 2-year-old I got this year is out of a mare that crippled up as a 3-year-old. I took a gamble out of it. It's pretty average bred, actually. I only gave $40,000 for it, but it's by far my best 2-year-old. Because I trusted where the source came from. It says the mare was a great mare, but got crippled up as a 3-year-old. And it was her first foal. I took a gamble on. Doug always had a theory. If he could look past a mare that never won any money or produced, especially if it's the first foal or two. Yep. But he said if her mother never won anything, produced anything, it was a game changer. It was off.
Oh, I'd agree 100%.
If the second dam never won or produced, cross it off the list.
Yep.
He could look past one strike on the mare. Now, that's assuming she didn't have 10 fucking foals that never done anything either.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Within reason, within 1 to 3 foals that are out that mare, he could look past that. But 2 dams that haven't done anything, no, he'd scratch it off.
Yeah, I would totally agree with him there.
Yeah.
Because they need something down there that shows that there's some proven lines down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just a bunch of horses.
We've got to take another little break here, freshen up a cocktail. When we get back, I want to talk to you about some of the most memorable stories you have about selling horses. Because for many thousands of horses that you've sold privately, and through Western Bloodstock, there's got to be some funny stories in there. Some potential train wrecks and some potential pretty special things that went down. Be thinking about that in the break of what you're going to say when you come back. Because a lot of people don't realize there's a whole other side of the horse industry of stories how horses get put together, being in the right place at the right time, and horses can have special careers.
Absolutely.
Breaking Bad is by the hottest stallion in the industry out of a great mare, Sweet Abra. He is athletic, extremely cowy, and was easy to train. He's a 3-time major events open champion with lifetime earnings of $181,000 and counting. He is subscribed to all the major NCHA and NRCHA programs and is in the Legacy Bonus Program with an estimated payout of $1 million at this year's NCHA Futurity. His 2025 breeding fee is $4,500 plus shoot fee. Breaking Bad is owned by the Fultz Ranch, the previous owners of Metallic Cat and the current owner of Stevie Ray Vaughan. They have all intentions of promoting Breaking Bad the same way as the other two great stallions. Mention the Uncut and Real Raw podcast for free apparel with a paid contract.
Love Clinton's Uncut and Real Raw podcast? Get the merch. T-shirts, caps, and shot glasses, all available from sweet and innocent to spicy and raw. Shop the full line at shop.downunderhorsemanship.com.
How do you know what it takes to become successful? Talk to someone who's done it. Clinton Anderson became a multi-millionaire by leveraging his passion for horse training into a global brand and media empire, starting with nothing but the change in his pocket and the will to succeed. In doing so, he revolutionized an industry and became a celebrity. Now, you can put his experience and advice to work for your business. With Clinton Anderson's business consultancy, you can tap into Clinton's unique perspective, hear his straight talk, and get his no-nonsense advice. Just imagine yourself armed with Clinton's hard-earned knowledge and entrepreneurial spirit. So whether you own a ranch or any sort of business at all, we invite you to discover the transformative power of Clinton Anderson's leadership and innovation in your business. Call 1-888-287-7432 to take your business to the next level today.
So, Jeremy, you know, you've probably been responsible for the sale of more horses than anybody in the country when it comes to the Western, performance industry. You know, we're specifically talking about cutting, reining, and cow horse, okay? What are some memorable stories you think would be interesting about selling horses that you can think of?
You know, probably the most interesting one, just because it was for a lot of money, obviously, and it was so fast. So it was probably the first part of September, and Alvin Folks called me, and he said, Metallic Cat's not on sale, but I would sell him to the right person. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I was in the round pen working at yearling actually for the sales. And I'm like, man, Alvin, what do you want for him? And he told me, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I know one guy that can even afford that kind of money.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if he'll do it or not. But I tell you what, I'll call and ask. So I hung up with Alvin. I called Bobby, and I said, hey, this is what he'll sell him for if you want him. And he said, no, I'll tell him I'll give him this. So I called him back, and Alvin said, no, I'm not going to do that. It takes this. I said, all right. So I called Bobby back, and I said, takes this. He's not going to take that. He said, I'm not going to jack around with that little bit of money. Just tell him we'll take him. And he said, get a plane, get a vet, and go vet him and bring him back. I'm like, okay. So I called him before we get on the plane. I'm like, Bobby, how are we going to get him back if he vets? I'm taking a plane. He said, I don't know. So I called Alvin, and we were talking about it, and he said, well, I got a truck and trailer. I'll sell it. So I called Bobby, and I said, well, he's got a truck and trailer he'll sell. It's got Metallic Cat's name on it. And he said, well, if he vets, just buy it. No, I had no idea what truck and trailer Alvin was even talking about. So we get up there, we do all the pre-purchase. Charlie, he flies back home. I spend the night. Well, it's a damn semi. Well, I've never drove a semi in my life.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, other than one of them automatic ones. I've never shifted all the gears since I was a teenager. Yeah. And I've got to drive 6 hours back with this horse. So that morning, Alvin, he takes me around the block teaching me how to drive this truck. And I smoke. Good or not, I smoke. Well, for 6 hours, I never smoked a cigarette because I didn't take two hands off them damn
You were pretty
wheel,
white-knuckling it,
hauling that horse back. And I'm like, thank God, from Amarillo to Stephenville, there's not a lot of traffic because I was a nervous son of a bitch. And I've got this horse in the back of this, I think it was 9 or 10 horse trailer.
Worth a lot of money.
Worth a lot of money in this semi. And I was like, God almighty, this is... But that was probably one of the most interesting just because it happened so fast. I mean,
for that much
you
money,
think when it's the kind of money that was, you're like, this is going to take a couple weeks. But no, it was like instant done. Flew up there, vetted him, brought him home, and it was all over said and done with. So that was a pretty interesting one. But, and you have the problems. You buy some for people, and the seller don't disclose something, and then you got to go back and fight with them and all that, and play that mediator, between the buyer and the seller, and you're trying to make everybody happy, but you can't have somebody lying to you.
Yeah.
So you have those issues, but
do you think, as a general rule, when you're mitigating and mediating those deals between a buyer and seller that are pissed at each other, do you think, as a general rule, when you get done settling that deal, if both people are slightly unhappy, it's the best you could have done?
Yeah, I mean,
as a general rule, because if one person's real happy, that means one person's real unhappy.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, a lot of deals that I've had to mediate with people being upset, when both people are just slightly a little unhappy, it's about the best we could come out with. Because usually there's a little bit of fault on both sides, as a general rule. Not always. Sometimes it's 100% somebody's fault. Would you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. No, it's usually a little bit of both persons' fault. Somebody didn't ask this or didn't disclose this.
Yes.
But if you can walk away and they're as least unhappy as they can be, you've done pretty good.
Yeah. What is the most common dispute you see in the sale industry, or people being unhappy with?
Well, mostly people not disclosing things.
Okay.
You know,
Give me an example.
Not disclosing it's a cribber, or tell you how broke it is. I mean, I had one of these just here not too long ago, and I never could get it settled, so I actually just ended up paying for the horse.
Yeah.
You know, you tell them, oh, this thing, your 5-year-old kid can ride it, and you take it home and it bucks you off.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And you can't. And sometimes you have had a seller there that just wouldn't do the right thing, and this buyer, he was trying to do the right thing, and he was you could just tell he was honest.
He was wanting to meet the guy in the middle.
He wasn't bullshitting us.
Yeah.
And so finally I just told him, I said, hey, just take that horse, fire sell him today, and whatever he don't bring that you paid for him, I'm gonna write you a check for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, and made him happy and walked away, and I'll never sell a horse for that other guy again.
That's exactly. I've done that more than once. It's just easier to take the pain.
Oh, absolutely.
Just eat it up and just move on.
You're gonna make it back tenfolds down the road.
That's exactly right.
If you do the right thing.
Yeah, doing the right thing will come back to you
Yes.
over and over again. That's exactly right. Let me ask you this. I never asked you about this, but I do want to talk a bit about it. Did you have any desire, or was it a goal, or did it just kind of somewhat develop by itself to be in the stallion business? You know, you went from a cutting horse trainer, then you got into selling with Western Bloodstock. How the hell did you get into the stallion business? Because how many stallions do you have now?
Oh, there's 40
that you guys stand?
40 some of them now. So the way that started was when we were still a training facility. I had a friend of mine back then that was, at that time, Brazil was buying a lot of horses.
They were, weren't they? Yes.
And there wasn't anywhere to quarantine them. So he come to me and said, hey, why don't we just build a little barn up here? I think we had 20 or 30 stalls in it, and we'll quarantine these horses here. I'm like, oh, perfect. We'll make some extra income.
Yeah.
You know, help offset some expenses for the training deal. So we did that. We built that barn, and that lasted probably 3 or 4 years, and then that kind of died off. They wasn't buying so many.
Their economy went to shit, didn't it?
Yeah. And so that barn was just sitting there, and then Charlie and I were talking one day, and I'm like, man, we need to do something with this barn. Why don't we start a little breeding facility? Like, we'll do the work. Y'all just send a vet over and check the mares, what have you. And so we started that way, and I hired Debbie Patterson, and at that time she was working for DLR, which was a big breeding facility at the time. And so she came down, I'm like, just be small. We'll just kind of do it ourselves. And hindsight, it's grown into what it's grown. But that's where we started. So
do you remember the first stud you stood?
Boone Too Soon.
Truly.
Yep. Boone Too Soon, and I leased a stud from Jack Wagner at the time, one Smart Cat.
Okay.
Then he bred 30 or 40 mares. I thought, well, we need some studs here to generate some shoot fees, you know.
Yeah.
But so where the stud barn is now, and you've been there, you know, it's obviously been added on to since then, but it's crazy that whole barn was our entire breeding facility. I think we had 28 stalls. Mm-hmm. Now we have over 200, but it's crazy to see how that has grown the last 10 years.
Did you intentionally try to get it to grow, or just somewhat, I don't mean this flippantly when I say this, but did it just organically kind of grow by itself a little bit? Or did you say, hey, I really want to grow this business, the stud business? You know what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah, you know, honestly, we started it as just a little extra income.
Yes.
What it is today that I intend for it to be in that, absolutely not. That was never my intention at all. Hell, still today, I wonder if it's my intention.
When you got to deal with all the mares.
You know, we got very lucky,
Yeah.
and you know, we got one after Boone Too Soon and One Smart Cat. You know, we got Kit Kat Sugar, and he was Horse of the Year that year, and then we got Dual Smart Ray, and he sired the Futurity Champion that year, and it just kind of grew. And I'm big on customer service. Like, I pound that in our people's head all the time, like customer service, because, you know, people did tell me that, oh, a breeding facility in Stephenville is not going to work. You got to be in Weatherford. I'm like, no, you ain't got to be in Weatherford. If you provide a better service,
they'll be fine.
You'll be just fine in Stephenville. It's not that far of a drive. So I pound that in our people's head all the time, like customer service. And so we built that, and then just more people just wanted to come. I mean, I have never to this day went and asked a single stud owner to bring their stud there. Never to this day.
Yeah.
They've all come to us.
Yeah.
I've not went out and tried to recruit them.
What do you think the general public doesn't understand? You know, what is a industry standard shoot fee now? $600-700? What is it now?
Yeah, it basically $650 to $700.
Okay. A lot of mare owners get pissy about that. They think that stud owners are just breeding facilities are raking in the money. And I've heard the opposite from the stud owners' perspective, or breeding facilities owners, is that there's a lot of hidden expenses in standing studs. What do you think the general public don't understand about a big breeding facility where you're standing that many studs, and especially when it comes to that shoot fee?
Oh, I mean, they really don't get the expenses. I mean, we've 50 some odd employees.
Yeah.
You know, and shavings. I mean, our shoot fee has gone up $25 in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And our shaving bills have tripled.
Yes.
Our labor bills have tripled. Your electric bills.
Yes.
I mean, everything is so much higher. Your hay, your feed. I mean, it's all so much higher, and they want more and more, but they want to pay you less.
Yes.
And it's just because they don't understand. I mean, if it was their business and they saw exactly what it cost,
Yeah.
and how many employees you have to have, I mean,
it's a very labor-intensive part of the horse business.
Oh, well, I mean,
these mares aren't going to check themselves. They're not going to follow themselves out. You need people, don't you?
Well, and you know, it's not an 8 to 5 job. We have a 24-hour staff. There's people that work 24 hours a day at that place. You know, because you've still got to have interns checking mares that you're breeding with frozen semen. You've got to have your foal out people there. So, I mean, it's a 24-hour staff. Well, that costs money.
Yeah.
And I promise you that $675 we charge is not near enough.
Yeah.
It's not near enough.
Yeah. Everybody pays attention. You know, when I say everybody pays attention to the gross, like somebody will say to me, oh, that guy's business is making bank. And I always look at them and say, you have no idea of their expenses. Until you walked in their shoes, you have no idea of the expenses. You're always looking at the cash registers. I look past the cash registers of, you know, when I see any business doing well, I always look around and say, this is cool, they're doing well. And then the next thing that goes through my mind is start adding up the employees. Start adding up the taxes. Start adding up the lawn care. Start adding up how many lawn care people do they take to take care of this place. That ranch of mine in Texas, you know, when I finally said, you know, I was done doing clinics and being on the road and I wanted to retire, I went to my accountant and said, what is this? It was 250 acres. You know where it was. What does this ranch cost me with one employee on it? One guy to do lawn mowing and keep the pastures up, not one horse on it. Not one horse, nothing on it except taxes, insurance, one employee, and fertilizer for the fields. It was $264,000 a year.
Oh, every bit
with
of it.
not one fucking animal on it.
Yep.
And that's why people say to me, why'd you go from 250 acres down to 15 acres? Because I don't have all those clinics anymore. I filmed TV shows out of it. I had 50 clinics there a year. You know, I used it all the time so I could generate a lot of money because I needed it. When I had to retire, I said to myself, I can't keep this place. It'll eat me alive to keep a place with this much expense, and I'm not using it for the public anymore.
No, and that's
I don't have any regrets getting rid of it. I promise you. Like people say, how'd you go from 250 acres down to 15? My answer is real easy.
real easy.
Because now it's nothing to take care of.
Yep.
Now it's so simple. 28 stall barn. It's so easy. I don't have to worry when I travel now. Who's taking care of the place? Who's looking after it? It's bigger. I've finally got to the point in my life where I realize big is not always better.
No, that's why everything we tried. we build something, we try to build it as low maintenance as possible because the maintenance on things will just kill you.
The taxes in Texas will kill you more than anything.
Oh, sheesh.
The
Property
tax when I
taxes.
left that place, the taxes on that place were like $46,000 a year.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was 6 years ago. The insurance was $42,000 a year because all those tornadoes and hailstorms that come through there.
Absolutely.
You know, so Texas will, you know, the Texas doesn't have a state income tax, and everybody says, "I'll move to Texas." Hang on, you better double check
The
what those
property
property
taxes.
taxes are, insurances before you move there, because they'll get, you know, government's going to get their money wherever they want it.
One way or
You know,
the other.
wherever I know, they're going to get their pound of flesh. You know, every trainer's looking for an edge on their competition. You know, whether it's a better horse, better way to train it. But really, in reality, all the trainers have got access to great horses. All the trainers are doing a lot of the same techniques. To me, the next greatest edge on competition, whether you're reining, cutting, cow horse, eventing, or racing, is keeping your horses sound and ready for competition. For the last 4 years, I've been sparring my horses by Cold Creek Equine Spa, and I spar them for 20 minutes every day after I ride them at 36 degrees. It ices down all 4 legs. What a game changer. My vet bills have been cut back by 50%. My horse's soundness has been gone through the roof, okay? People think that spas are expensive. It'll pay for itself just on saving on vet bills in the first 18 months. Spas have been around for a long time, but for years they've been junk. They are broken more than they actually work. You needed to be like a plumbing engineer to make the some bitches work. Cold Creek Equine are using the latest technology, industrial strength machines that are basically maintenance free. Anybody can operate this thing. Even me as a horse trainer, I can operate it. And more than anything, it stays working. Go to their website, check them out. It's a game changer. In the next 10 years, if you're a professional horse trainer, if you don't have a spa, you will be left behind on your equine soundness.
Nothing would please them more than to see this old piece of shit in a coffin. Oh, they want to drive a steel knife down a stupid fucking throat, and they talk about it quite often.
Okay, guys, we got some hate mail. It's time to blow off some steam. Usually it's bitches hating on a man, but this time it's Eric Dougherty. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Dougherty. Bit of a mouthful. Let's read what Eric has to say. Clinton has to be one of the greatest marketers of himself around because as a horseman and a person, he is a piece of shit. He's got to be great at it because I don't know anyone who can manipulate people enough that he can stand right in front of the public and say he doesn't give a crap about his clients, but he will be happy to take their money. And people still fall for his BS. Oh, Eric, that's a little harsh, mate. I don't even fucking know you, okay? Now, I do give a crap about my clients, but I tell you what I don't give a crap about is bullshitting to them or lying to them. So if my clients say some dumb shit, I'm going to call them out on their dumb shit. If they do something dumb, I'm going to call them out on what they do. This kind of sounds like a little jealousy, Eric. Are you working a job you hate? Can you not retire yet, buddy? I've been doing this for 28 years, had a very successful career. So I love what I do, but it sounds like you're a little bitter, Eric. Come on, come have a beer with me, mate. We'll get along a lot better if you just get to know me and meet me in person. Changing subjects for a second. The cow horse industry. Right now, it's 2025, the world's greatest horseman contest is going on. Okay, they're in the prelims. The finals are this Saturday. I'm going down there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think the world's greatest horseman is an unbelievable event that you're seeing the horses, you know, they're doing the reining pattern, they're going down the fence, they're cutting, and they're steer stopping. 6-7 years ago, you couldn't give a bridle horse away for 50 grand. You know, 50 grand, you couldn't hardly get anybody to buy a great bridle horse 6-7 years ago for 50 grand. Now, I don't think you could buy any horse that makes the finals in that world's greatest horses under 150,000. No. At minimum. What do you think has caused the bridle horses prices to go up, and what do you think about the world's greatest horseman as an event?
Well, it's one of my favorite events, and I helped get that payout up to where it's at.
What is it now?
So it pays $150,000 to win it. And, you know, a few years ago, I think I've been sponsoring it 3, 4, 5 years now, I don't know. But I was there at the finals, and they were winning 50 grand. And I called at the time. Allison worked there, and she was in charge of marketing. I said, "I tell you what, next year I'm going to give you another $50,000 to pay the winner." I said, "It's insane to me that these horses can do 4 events in the same bridle on the same day, and they're going to win 50 grand.
Yeah,
Like that's stupid. These are some of the greatest horses in the world,
and they've been in training for a minimum of 5 to 7 years. You know, the youngest they can be is 7-year-old. I don't think there would be a 7-year-old in the finals. Most of them are 8 on.
But so since then, you know, they've gotten some other sponsors, and they've got the payout up. Even the bottom holes pay so much better now. I mean, but those horses, they deserve to win that kind of money.
Don't they?
I mean, they're some of the greatest athletes out there, and those trainers. I mean, how many trainers train a horse do 4 different things?
Not very many.
I mean, that's not easy. That's very hard to do. It's different than cutting. You're doing one deal, or roping. You're doing one deal. These guys are having to do 4 different deals on one horse and one bridle in one day. That's pretty damn impressive.
It's really good that the old school horsemanship's coming back, isn't it?
Oh,
the trainers
absolutely.
like your granddad and Bobby Avila and you know, Tommy Mannion, trainers that could do multiple events.
Yes.
We got away from that in such a specialized world we live in now. Cutting trainers, reining trainers, you know, it's so cool that it's almost cool to be back to being an all-round trainer again, to where you could do those multiple events.
You know, and now they've got the incentive too now for the Stallion Stakes, which has bridle classes in it, where they're going to have a lot more money in that. So those bridle horses are going to get higher and higher, I think.
Yes.
And they're hard to come by.
Think about how many training bills those owners have got on those horses to have them in training from a 2-year-old to 7, 8 years old.
They've
got to have at least $150,000 in training bills.
At least they've got a fortune in them.
You know, it's good to see the owner. It gives the owners a reason to keep them in training for all that time.
Yeah.
I love the longevity in the cow horse world. You don't see this in the reining. Like most truly open reining horses, by 7-year-old, they're toast.
Yeah.
They're running off around the ends. They've anticipated so much. They know the patterns inside and out. You very rarely will you see an open horse past 7-year-old that's still competitive. 5-year-old, yes, for sure. 6-year-old, barely 7. After that, they got to drop down to, you know, rookie, non-pro. They've got to drop down some levels to still be shown. But what it's so cool about that World's Greatest Horseman, how old was that? Call me Mitch, for Christ's sake. You know, isn't he 14 or something? He's got a bit of age on him when he won it. But there's so many horses in that World's Greatest Horseman that are over 10 years old
And still doing
really well. Happy at their job, love their job, sound. That's pretty cool to have horses in their teens at that level.
Yeah, it's good to see those horses with that longevity and get paid for it.
Yes. Do you see that in the cutting or not?
You know, you do in the cutting, you know, with the mares and the studs, obviously they don't stay as long in what they call the weekend events after the aged events just because they go to the breeding barn.
Yeah.
But a lot of geldings, but they'll take some stud. They've gotten to where they'll take some studs now. When they turn 7, they've aged out the aged events. They'll go hauling for the world one year before they just send them straight to the breeding barn. And you'll get a handful of mares, but a lot of geldings, and they'll last a long time. They'll last a long time if you take care of them and they stay sound. But they're getting hard to find, and they're damn expensive if you do find one.
Yeah, because nobody wants to sell them again.
No, they hold on to
the
them.
trouble with the horse industry is that horse trainers obviously are trying to make a living and feed their family, pay their bills, and ultimately retire. Let's just be honest. You know, they want to retire one day and not have to worry about money. But as an industry, we're trying to produce horses like a factory, like a Ford production line. We're trying to put them out like a production line when in reality it's a Picasso. You must hand paint it.
Yes.
You must touch it every day. You must build that Ferrari every single day. You know what I mean? That's where it's counterproductive against itself, isn't it? Is that, you know, there's only so, you know, when I was 13 years old, Gordon McKinley told me something I never forgot. That's what actually got me into videos and, you know, being a clinician. There's not enough hours in the day and with your own 2 hands to get rich. He said, there's not enough hours in the day and with your own 2 hands to get rich. He told me that when I was 13 years old. Never forgot it. That's what got me into selling videos because I didn't have to touch it. That's what got me into doing clinics. That's what got me into doing tours because my time's only worth so much money. How do I duplicate my time? How do I make myself duplicate many, many times? So in horse training, you can't factory produce it. You must touch it.
Every day.
And that's what limits how much money you can make from it, isn't it?
That's exactly right. You've got to be able to create some of that mailbox money.
Yes, yes. Trainers have got to get smart about whatever money they make from the horse industry, where do they put that?
Yes.
Whether they put it in real estate, where do they stocks, where do they take that money and make it grow more? Because they are limited to how many horses they can touch and ride.
Oh, yeah, you can only ride so many, but you do see that a lot now. You see a lot of these guys, they go win something and they take that money and invest it in other things, and I'm glad to see those guys doing that. They're being smart with their money now.
Yes. There's been too many old, crippled up horse trainers that were great human beings, great horse trainers, that didn't have a pot to piss in.
Yes.
I'll publicly say it, I've said it many times. I didn't want to be poor. I've got no kids over here, Jeremy. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. When I die, it's me. You get what I'm saying? I got to have enough money to be put in a nursing home where some lady's wiping my ass. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's the reality of it.
Yeah,
I'm
true.
over here by myself. There's no family here for me. I'm on my own. I was always frightened to death of that. I did not want to die in a single wide trailer as a busted ass horse trainer with a broken back, broken hip, broken knee that couldn't live. Does that make sense? And there's a lot of really good horse trainers that went down like that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't take care of their body and they didn't take care of their money for sure.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know. So before we go, I always ask a guest this last question. If you had to go back to a 21-year-old Jeremy and give him any advice, might be 21, might be 17, doesn't really matter, but in that age group, at that age, you know, we're all full of piss and vinegar. We all thought we knew more than our parents, and as we get older, we realize, in your case, your grandparents, we always realize our parents and grandparents maybe were a lot smarter than what we thought they were as a kid. And we may not have listened to this advice, but what advice would you go back and tell yourself at your age now? Of everything that you've done and accomplished, what do you think you would have told yourself?
You know, I don't know that I would have changed a whole lot other than maybe enjoyed it a little more.
Okay.
Not worked. I mean, still work hard every day, but enjoy it a little more instead of just pushing through one to get to the next one, trying to run 5-6 different things at once. I would have probably slowed down a little bit and enjoyed the moment, even if it was just on a Sunday.
Yep.
Where pretty well my entire life, even now, like I do it every day, 7 days a week. I mean, I rarely stay at home on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. I'll still get up, go to the office, go to the breeding barn, and do something. I would probably slow down just a little bit and enjoy life just a little bit more before you get too old.
Yeah, and your body's too sore.
Exactly.
Yep. Where do you see the horse industry going? You know, we spoke during the break that in 5 years since COVID, the horse industry grew like more than it grew in 20 years. Let's face it. You know, and there's lots of different factors. Taylor, Yellowstone, the economy, lots of things made it grow. But it really grew a lot in 5 years. Where do you see it going the next 5 years?
And, you know, I honestly, I think it's going to continue to grow. Is it going to grow at the rate, just like we were talking during the break? I mean, it grew in 5 years what normally takes 20.
Yes.
You know, is it going to do that again the next 5 years? I don't know. But I do think it's going to continue growing. I steadily get phone calls from new people, see new people coming in.
What are the ages of them? And the reason I ask that is that my whole career, I made a lot of money off baby boomers. At one point, baby boomers were the largest group of population, age group.
Yep.
I made a lot of money off baby boomers in my career. Well, I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but I don't believe they're the largest swath of people now. Does that make sense? So Doug always said, he was always worried before COVID, what happens when all these baby boomers age out? What happens when all these horse people that spend a lot of money in the horse industry either die or age out or get out of it? He was worried that you didn't see enough younger people with money coming into it to get involved in this industry, to buy horses, want to go show, hire a trainer, etc. Are you seeing an age group? Because you see a lot of new people coming into the business. You know, you sit in that sale, I watch you like a hawk. You sit there and you know every buyer. You make sure you go meet these buyers. I've seen what you do. You got your thumb on it. Have you seen a change in demographic of age or not?
You know, I think, a few years ago it was more your 50 to 65.
Yep.
And I've seen here recently, the last couple of years, more 40s to 50s.
Okay.
So it's been good to see that younger crowd because just like you said, I mean, that older crowd goes out. But then we've also seen some of the older crowd that their kids wasn't involved, and now that the parents or grandparents are kind of getting older, those kids and grandkids are coming in and taking their place. So that's good. But I have noticed a lot of that 40 to 50-year-old the last couple of years have really sparked an interest in it.
Well, I don't see Taylor slowing down anytime soon.
Let's hope he don't.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. So as long as he keeps making the Western culture cool, I don't think it's going to stop making you people get into it. What would be your advice? I always keep saying we're done, but I ask you one more question. But what would be your advice for a young person wanting to get into the horse industry today, the Western performance industry, cutting, reining, cow horse? What would you tell them to be successful? What would some advice you'd sit down and tell them?
Well, I would think if they're just coming in, find someone that you respect, that has a good work ethic, go to work for them, work your ass off, even if you have to work for free.
Yep. I did that.
Just work very hard and you'll be successful. Even if you're not the most talented, if you work hard enough, you'll figure out a way to be successful.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the most talented guy out there to be successful.
Often do you find the most talented guys or girls are some of the laziest?
Oh, absolutely.
You agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
Yeah. In my experience, the most naturally talented athletes, doesn't even have to be in horse training.
No.
Are typically the fucking laziest.
The laziest.
I've always said,
they know it's easy.
I always said this publicly. I'm not that talented with a horse, and most of the other clinicians that I competed against were much better horsemen than me. I made a lot more money than them, and I got bigger than them, and I ultimately retired a lot earlier than them because I outworked them. I couldn't beat them on talent. I knew that. And I couldn't beat them on being a horseman. But I sure as shit beat them on fucking work ethic.
You can outwork
I
them.
worked them into the goddamn ground.
Yep.
I outworked them till they just gave up. That's how I beat them. I didn't have talent. I outworked them.
And you can have a little bit of talent, but if you'll work your ass off, you will be as successful, if not more successful than the others at the end of the day.
Yes.
Like you've got to have that work ethic.
Mm-hmm. When you get, there's, one guy I can think of in particular, Andrea Fapani. He's the outlier. He's the guy that has tremendous natural talent, but an absolute animal work ethic.
Yes.
An absolute animal. Okay. That's untouchable at that point. But how rare is that?
Yeah.
To find the guy that's super talented with an unbelievable work ethic. I'm not saying they're not out there. You could probably name some people in the cutting industry as well, but that's one guy I know personally that had both, and that's untouchable.
But, doesn't mean that other guy, this young guy coming in, can't be the second number one
Yes.
guy. You can be number two. That's okay.
You're damn right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's funny you talk about number two. The older I get in life, the more I realize that your number two Christmas present from Santa ain't too fucking bad. Like, as a kid, we always want that shiny bike, brand new bike from Santa, okay? And then, so that's number one. And number 10 on the Christmas list is socks and underwear from your grandparents. They always got your socks and underwear for Christmas. And as a kid, that sucked, didn't it, okay? But you may not get the shiny bike, but you might got the... the PlayStation or Nintendo, you might have got something number two that was pretty cool present.
Absolutely.
And what I've realized the older I've got, even if you think you get the number one Christmas present, there's always problems with it.
Oh, absolutely.
I said this to a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, he didn't give me permission, but a guy that's a really good horse trainer. And he's keeping about 15 horses in training right now and doing them all himself, working his ass off, but he's riding every horse himself, okay? Starts at, 5:30 in the morning, finishes about 6 at night. He hires one girl to saddle and unsaddle. And he rides them all himself. He does a phenomenal job. And he's making probably $130,000, $40,000 a year doing that, okay? And he said to me, should I get bigger? Should I get another, assistant trainer in? And I said, here's the deal, mate. I said, if you get another rider in, you got to get at least another 10 horses in to pay for his salary and board and all the problems with it. So with those extra 10 horses, you've got 10 other customers you have to fucking deal with. 10 extra phone calls at the end of the month, 10 extra billing, 10 extra problems. Now you've got to teach this assistant trainer as well. Not only have you got to teach him, which takes time out of your day, now you've got to fix all his fuck-ups too. Because when we're young, you would have done it. I did it. We all mess up. When we're young, we're going to ruin a horse. We're going to do some things we shouldn't have done. It's going to be a problem. That's called inexperience, and that's why we're young. So I said, you're going to have to fix all that too. And that's going to take away from you riding those 15 head that you've got right now. I said, if I was you, I'd just charge more money, charge a bigger premium to ride those 15 head and stay right where you're at. It may not be your number one Christmas present where you've got, 6 futurity horses every year, but with those extra 10, 20 horses in training come all the problems to come with it.
Yes.
So I said, if I was you, you got 2 or 3 horses to show every year at the futurity. You don't get to pick from 30. Yes, you don't get to pick from 30, but you got 2 or 3 every year that show up. You like what you do. You're home 6 days a week. You get to see your wife every night. You got one employee to mess with, which is the girl that saddles and unsaddles. You board your horses so you don't even have to worry about the facility. I said, I'd stay where you're at. Figure out how your lifestyle can work with that amount of money. Take that money and buy some rental property. Take that money and invest it somewhere else. Because I don't think you jumping up to the next level is going to make you that much more money. I think it's going to create you a lot more stress. Agree or disagree?
That's some great advice.
That's your number 2 Christmas present. Yeah. I said, live with number 2. I have to fight that in myself all the time to not get bigger. Yeah. And I say, hey, Clint, keep this under control. Make it small. 10 heads plenty. Because the demon in you, when you're a go-getter like me and you, there's a demon in us. It's a drug. It's a demon. It keeps saying get bigger. It keeps saying get bigger. And I'm like, you already did that, motherfucker, and you about killed yourself. So be done with it. You made your money. Be thankful. Get out now.
It's hard to get to that point that you're satisfied.
Yes.
Because you always want more.
Yes.
So I struggle with that a lot and overdo a lot of things, but it's just you struggle with trying to be satisfied. That's hard for me.
As I've got older, when I ask myself, is the number 2 Christmas present from Santa pretty good? And when I say, yeah, it's pretty good. When you can say the number 2 Christmas present's pretty damn good, that's at least for me what's helped me satisfy with where I'm at. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's like I'm never going to win the futurity, but I sure love what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, that's.
I sure love what I'm doing. I sure love where I'm riding. I sure love the customers I'm training for. I get to buy the horses I want to ride. I don't have to take them from the public. Sure, I might miss out on some things, but I sure like number 2 Christmas present.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good advice, right?
It ain't socks and underwear, is it?
No, that's not bad advice at all, right?
Well, Jeremy, listen, mate, I'm very proud of you. I'm proud to know you as a friend and a fellow peer in the horse industry. You've done a hell of a lot for the horse industry. You've come from nothing. You've come from Georgia, worked your ass off. Your grandparents, I'm so proud of you for giving your grandparents as much credit as you give them. They were tough on you, but you know now why they were so tough on you, is because they made you into the man you are today. I'm proud of that. I always love it when when people can recognize in their younger years all the people that invested that much time and effort and attention into them. You know what I mean? The scars that you have made you the man you are today and successful at what you do. So we've all got our battles there, but on the other side of it, something good always happens. But thank you for doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. And I think people are going to just love this story. And you can come from middle of Georgia with no money, and without a doubt, you're probably one of the most, if not one of the most influential people in the Western industry, in the cutting, reining, cow horse industry. I think the only guy that might wield a little more power than you is Taylor Sheridan, and you probably don't mind being second to him. You know what I mean? So you should be very proud of yourself. Cheers, brother. Thank you so much for being here and being on Uncut and Real Raw. And I hope that you inspire lots of other young men and women that are coming up out of high school that see you and say, I could be Jeremy one day. If I'm willing to work hard enough, sacrifice enough, have some balls, and really hit the grindstone, I can be you.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Today's episode was filmed and produced by Uncut Productions, marketing by Stewart & Associates, and organized and administrated by Down Under Horsemanship. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a rating. Follow us and stay up to date on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. See you next time, mate. Cheers.